City Clerk, would you call the roll?
Alderman Rainey. Here. Alderman Burris. Here. Alderman Fisk. Alderman Braithwaite. Here. Alderman Wynn. Here. Alderman Wilson. Here. Alderman Holmes. Here. Alderman Tindem. Here. Alderman Grover. Here. 9-0.
We have a quorum. Welcome to the Monday, August 12th, 2013 meeting of the Evanston City Council. It's my prerogative, so I have decided that we will have the public announcements and communications before the town meeting, so those of you who don't want to stay for the town meeting will not have to. The first item on the agenda is the mayor's public announcements and proclamations, and I have a proclamation to read. The Warren Cherry Scholarship Fund 20th Anniversary, August 17th, 2013. Whereas Warren Billy Cherry was a charismatic educator and community leader and worked relentlessly to create equity and balance for children in the Evanston school system. And whereas Billy began his adult life as a barber and later enrolled at Trinidad Junior College in Colorado. And whereas Billy's education culminated in completion of coursework toward a PhD at Northwestern University. And whereas he taught fourth grade at Timber Ridge School, served as assistant principal at Skiles Middle School, and as principal at Central School and Lincoln School. And whereas Billy contributed to the Evanston community by serving on the boards of the ETHS Boosters Club, the Girl Scouts, the Justin Wynn Memorial Fund, the Mental Health Association, the United Way, and the McGaw YMCA. And whereas Billy had a commitment to the highest standards of educational excellence and an energetic dedication to enriching the children and the community of Evanston. And whereas Billy's impact was extraordinary. Now, therefore, I, Elizabeth Tisdall, Mayor of the City of Evanston, do hereby proclaim August 17th, 2013 as Warren Billy Cherry Day in the city of Evanston, Illinois, in celebration of the 20th anniversary of the Warren Cherry Scholarship Fund. Would everyone who is here from the Warren Cherry Board please come forward and accept this proclamation?
One more. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that renewed my faith in the audience. I have an announcement, and I hope I pronounce it correctly. Jalisco in Evanston, folkloric and contemporary dance artisans will be selling their unique and handmade creations August 29th at the Levy Center, 5:30 to 9. It's free and open to the public. And that concludes my announcements. City Manager, do you have announcements?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I have several, and I'm going to take them a little bit out of order from the items printed. First, we have two new employees I'd like to introduce. First, Mark Munzer. Mark, could you step forward? Mark is our new Director of Community Development. Mark comes to us from the City of Chicago, where he has served in their Housing and Community Development Department in a variety of capacities, most recently as manager of the Chicago Zoning Board of Appeals. His first day is today. He comes with a long line of experience, not only in Chicago, but other local governments, as well as other endeavors in his life. We're very excited to have Mark join the team. Mark, do you have any?
Madam Mayor and members of council, I'm just really looking forward to this opportunity. I've always admired Evanston and the community, and I think it's a dynamic place, and I'm fortunate to be here. So thank you for this opportunity, and I'm looking forward to it.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to introduce Cindy Plant. Cindy is our new local government management fellow. You met Jonathan a few weeks back. Cindy comes to us from the great state of North Carolina, where she completed her master's degree there. She also has a Juris Doctorate degree. Will be serving her first 6 months with the city in the Economic Development Division, and then in January we'll make the switch with Jonathan, and she'll come up to the city manager's office. So she's working on Trader Joe's opening and a whole variety of new projects in our Economic Development Division. So Cindy, we're very happy to have you.
All right, thank you. I'm really glad to be here and looking forward to working with y'all.
You're welcome as well.
Yeah.
And a departure to note, Eric Palmer, who has served as our public information officer for the last several years, has decided to go back to graduate school. So his last day with us will be on August 30th. He was unable to be here tonight, but I wanted to take a moment to recognize Eric for his outstanding service to the city of Evanston. Next, Chief Richard Eddington, our Chief of Police, is here. We don't always take the time to introduce to the council and to the community newly promoted officers and those officers assigned to key community assignments, and we thought we'd rectify that this evening. So, Chief Eddington, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. City Manager, Your Honor, City Clerk, and Alderman. I want to take some time to introduce some newly promoted sergeants. First of all, let me mention Sergeant Dennis Leaks, who couldn't join us this evening. He had some pre-approved time off, but I'd like to call... Dennis, as long as we've said your name, why don't you please step up here, please. Sergeant Anthony Correa, Sergeant Gil Levy, Sergeant Elizabeth Glenn. All these sergeants are newly promoted and have been assigned to the patrol division. I'd also like to take this opportunity to reintroduce to the council two sergeants that will have specific assignments that will bring them into contact more frequently with members of the council. They are Sergeant Tracy Williams, who's been assigned to the traffic unit, and Sergeant Melissa Secludi, who's been assigned to the Office of Professional Standards. This evening, I'd also like to introduce Commander Joe Dugan, who is now in command of the 3 to 11 shift, and Deputy Chief Joe Wozni, who is in command of the Patrol Division.
Congratulations.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Good going.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Thank you so much.
In closing, Your Honor, I do greatly appreciate this opportunity to introduce these key members of the police department, and I also appreciate you taking us out of order so we could leave before the township meeting. Thank you.
There's a comment there, but I just don't know. Next, I'd like to ask Paul DeAgostino, our Assistant Director of Public Works for Forestry, to step forward. Many of you know we've spent this summer trying to bring attention to our urban forest issues with the emerald ash borer. We've had a couple of initiatives just recently that Paul would like to bring to your attention, and also talk about our fundraising efforts to be able to plant additional trees this fall. Paul, good evening.
Thank you, Wally. Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Clerk, Alderman. Back on June 22nd of this year, we started the I Heart Evanston Trees project at the Tree Summit held at the Levy Center. If I can figure out how to do this. The goal of the I Heart Evanston Trees program is to try and raise $25,000 by the end of September of this year. That $25,000 will allow us to plant 100 additional trees, hopefully this coming fall. The emerald ash borer is still with us, still wreaking havoc. We've lost over 2,000 ash trees to this point in time, and we are still tagging more almost every week. As of 8/12 this morning, we had raised $6,545 towards that $25,000. Just after noon, I'm sorry. The program, we're trying to educate community members. That's the main goal of the whole thing. We've started with the Tree Summit. We've gone to both of the Lakefront Arts Festivals. We did some work with some of the Ecology Center camps. We continue to have a presence at the community picnic later this month, as well as the Green Living Festival next month. And a matter of fact, just this afternoon, I actually did an interview with CBS TV, which will be on the 10 o'clock news tonight. Just last week, we painted some ash trees blue along Sheridan Road, adjacent to Calvary Cemetery. We did this to bring awareness and hopefully more education to the residents of Evanston regarding the destruction of emerald ash borer. These trees were all already marked for removal and will actually be cut down later this month. We've had numerous calls since these were painted last week asking what's going on, and we've actually gotten some donations out of those phone calls. So it seems to be working so far. I also want to announce tonight that we're going to start the Evanston Tree Replant Express. We're going to allow people who are already on the list to receive a replacement tree to pay for that tree themselves to get moved up on the list. And we think that overall this will help all Evanston residents by shortening the existing list, no matter if they're able to pay or not. Because if we can get 100 people to pay their way to get a new tree, then that just shortens the list by 100 plant sites. So I think everybody will benefit in the end. The more Evanston residents that purchase the trees, the faster we'll be able to replant all of those trees. As you all are probably well aware, there's numerous benefits from trees in Evanston. Mostly the cleaner air and the stormwater absorption are the two really financially feasible benefits. The next steps to this program, we're going to try and create a task force later this month to help us focus more on the fundraising element, because we want to keep raising funds, not just this year, but in the coming years, to keep the tree replacement plan as short as possible. We're going to be advertising this Tree Replant Express program in many ways. We're going to coordinate with community groups such as the Open Lands Tree Keepers program, which are actually starting a Tree Keepers class next month at the Levy Center. We're going to continue to maintain a presence at community events as much as possible and get the word out as best we can. Any questions?
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alderman Grover.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Director D'Agostino. For those who are interested in donating to this cause, on Citizen Vestor It's citizeninvestor.com. I think I've just found it. And if you search Evanston, it's pretty easy. It pulls up just one project, one crowdfunding project.
That's correct.
And for those of you who are watching, paying attention, it's citizinvestor.com to the website to find this
Right.
particular project for
There
donations.
is a link on our city's website to that site as well.
Or cityoфevanston.org. Look for the link.
Right.
Thank you.
Alderman Rainey.
I mentioned this previously. On the water bill, I don't understand why we can't have a couple of boxes that say, I want to contribute to I Heart Trees. $1, $5, make it easy for people to contribute.
Send it back with the
I would
water
love
bill.
to do that, huh?
And send it back with the water bill, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just, you want to,
I think that's an excellent
How
idea.
many water bills do we send out every 2 months? The number, not to whom, but how many? Do we send out 20,000?
In excess of 20,000.
Okay, so imagine if every 2 months the average return was $1 a bill. You'd have $20,000 every 2 months. So
And Madam-
I would really encourage us to do that. I know our water bills are miserable, but I think people would like helping the trees on the water bill, and it would be so easy.
Be happy to follow up.
Okay.
Next, Suzette Robinson, our Director of Public Works, is here. Believe it or not, Labor Day is upon us, and she is here, or Jim Mayworm, our there's Suzette. Jim Mayworm, our Assistant Director of Public Works. Everyone likes to see Jim. So when's the first snow expected?
Let's go with February sometime. Is that
Good answer.
Is it okay?
Jim's here to talk about Labor Day trash and recycling collection.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Manager, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, Clerk Green. I'm sorry, I'm always the guy that brings the bad news, snow, end of summer, that kind of stuff. But unfortunately, Labor Day is only 3 weeks away from this time. Monday, September 2nd, is the holiday. There'll be no solid waste, yard waste, or recycling pickup on that day. Solid waste, yard waste will be picked up generally one day later during the week. Recycling will double up on that Tuesday and be back on schedule by Wednesday, September 4th. Any questions from anybody? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And another sign that it's the almost end of the summer is our community picnic. The community picnic will be here at the Morton Civic Center on Sunday, August the 25th. I believe it gets started around 12 o'clock and goes to around 5 o'clock. A whole variety of activities and food, as we have had in past years. You'll be hearing lots more about it as the end of the month approaches. Further information you can just find on our website, cityoфevanston.org, but we're looking forward to another big crowd. And with that, Madam Mayor, I'd like to ask Doug Gaynor to come step forward. Right here is fine.
Okay.
This is Doug's last city council meeting. Well, last city council meeting ever. Wow, what a nice ring that has to it. Last city council meeting ever. Doug is retiring from the city of Evanston on August 30th as our Director of Parks, Recreation, and Community Services. Doug has done an outstanding job for this community. The long list of accomplishments and milestones that Doug has brought to this community, the investments in parks, the investments in our lakefront, the investments in a group of talented men and women who serve this community day in and day out. So, Doug, on behalf of your colleagues here at the City of Evanston, we want to wish you all the best as you move forward with your life. You've left a mark on this community that people young and old can enjoy living in Evanston just a little bit more thanks to the good work that you've done. So on behalf of the City of Evanston, I want to present you with this plaque and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
As many of you know, Doug has worked with a whole variety of individuals and groups here in Evanston. Bill Blanchard's here on behalf of the Evanston Baseball Softball Association with a presentation.
Thank you, City Manager Bob Quidz, Madam Mayor, and members of the City Council. My name is Bill Blanchard, and I'm here tonight as a parent and as a volunteer and as a coach and as a board member, and then ultimately co-president of the Evanston Baseball and Softball Association, which serves between 1,500 to 1,600 boys and girls in this community. And I just wanted to join in City Manager Bob Quitz's kind words about Doug's legacy and the impact that he's had on the community, because I can personally vouch, and on behalf of the organization that I've worked many years to help our boys and girls in the community, that without Doug's help and the help of his team, the experience of all these kids over the years would have been diminished considerably. It's one thing to make our park assets like James Park shine on a June and July Saturday when it's 90 degrees and the sun's up. It's another thing to make it habitable on a cold and cruel April morning. And Doug and his team did all that for us. But more than just making the park assets reliable and safe and attractive for our kids and their families, Doug was much more than that, and his team as well, as far as acting as a partner and helping us do outreach into the community to help make our programming better. And he really was a true partner in that sense. And the tone that he set created a tone of true collaboration amongst all the organizations that serve our youth here in Evanston, including AYSO and Team Evanston, Evanston Youth Lacrosse, Junior Wildcats Football, and all of them, I think, also joined me in helping to thank Doug for all the efforts on behalf of our organizations, but more importantly, on behalf of our youth. And as a small token of our appreciation, I have a bag full of goodies, which includes a bag for the goodies, as well as a travel cap, an Evanston baseball sweatshirt, and one of the souvenir metal pins that our teams brought to Cooperstown, New York this year for trading purposes. So, Doug, thank you again. You'll be missed.
It's been really a pleasure for me to serve the city of Evanston, and in particular, our youth. That's really what's most important. And so anything that I've done in partnership with the city council, with the school districts, and especially I want to point out my wife, who's put up with meetings 3 and 4 nights a week and on weekends. It's very important. I wanted to wish Joe McCrae, who's going to sit in for several months as an interim, I wanted to wish him luck, but I really don't need to do that, because the staff that he will inherit is so outstanding, and I think Bill Blanchard has mentioned that team is so outstanding that Joe won't need any luck. And I wanted to mention that they surprised me, and they're all here tonight. So why don't you all stand up? Thank you.
Doug, not so fast. I did want to say personally and on behalf of the citizens of Evanston, I thought of you this morning as we were at the golf course, which has gone through many evolutions from Peter Jans to, what is it now, we're Canal Shores. But not only is our golf course still alive and functioning, but today we had 78 golf carts and celebrities from all over the United States to play at our golf course. And one of the reasons that that happened is that we still have the golf course, and that's because Doug kept trying, no matter how gloomy and hopeless it looked to keep that course financially stable. Doug kept doing it and kept telling me we just need to do one more thing. It was always one more thing. But that course is alive because you're relentless, and it's now got a fabulous board and is going to do well. But the same relentlessness went into the parks and into rehabbing the parks in this community. And when people would say, oh, why bother having the meeting? Don't do anything to our park. No one goes there. You would insist we had to have the community meeting, and we would have it, and we would spend the money, and then the park would be full of children forever after. So I would like to thank you for all the things you've done for the city of Evanston, including bestirring me to keep trying, and I congratulate you on being dogged and relentless and incredibly successful. You've left your mark on this community, and we are all the richer for it. Thank you. Okay, City Manager.
That concludes my public
That
announcements.
concludes your announcements. Thank you. City Clerk, do you have communications for us?
No, Madam Mayor, I do not.
All right. Then I think we will go to the Evanston Town Board meeting. And where's my parliamentary expert? Can we recess this meeting and go into the town meeting? And we are now magically the town board. So, City Clerk, would you call the roll?
Okay. Trustee Rainey? Here. Trustee Burris? Here. Trustee Fisk? Here. Trustee Braithwaite? Here. Trustee Wynn? Here. Trustee Wilson? Here. Trustee Holmes?
Here.
Trustee Tindem? Here. Trustee Grover? Here. 9-0.
We have a quorum. City Manager, since this is your proposal, do you want to explain your budget proposal?
Yes, I think the city clerk has a few items first.
Okay.
The township meeting that's being held here tonight is a meeting of the township board, so there's no need to have a nomination for a moderator, because the township board meetings, the mayor will be the moderator for the meeting. We only have nominations when we have the annual township meeting. So disregard number 2 on the agenda for tonight, and we'll go into the meeting from that point.
Mayor, I think there's a citizen comment sheet for the township board.
We have 3 people signed up to speak. I'm going to call your names. Please come and give your name and address. Bonnie Wilson, Junad Risky, and Betty Esther.
Thank you, moderator, and thank you, trustees. I'm Bonnie Wilson, Evanston Township Assessor, and I would like to address 3 topics that are currently affecting the assessor's office. First is the budget, and the only increase that I put in the 9-month budget was a cost of living increase for my staff. They worked especially hard this year, as this was the year Evanston was reassessed. There is also an increase in contract services, which would include the cost in moving to the Civic Center at the end of September. As this is my last budget as Evanston Township Assessor, I hope that you will accept this budget. I also want to remind everyone that Evanston is now currently open for appeals to the Cook County Board of Review. The appeals period will end on September 3rd. And please let the taxpayers that reside in your individual wards know that they can call or stop by the assessor's office to file an appeal. Our address is 846 Dodge, and our phone number is 847-332-2465. I also want to mention that there's going to be an Evanston Township Property Tax Seminar in which Cook County Commissioner Sufferton, Cook County Board of Review Commissioner Michael Carbonargi, State Senators Daniel Biss, Heather Stearns, State Representatives Robin Gable, Laura Fine, and Kelly Cassidy, and myself will be hosting a property tax seminar on Wednesday, August 21st. It will begin at 6:30 at the Evanston Public Library. And the seminar will review how to file a property tax assessment appeal and other areas of interest to property taxpayers. And I'm encouraging everyone to come to that seminar. I'm sure it will be very interesting and informative. I want to further discuss my concerns on the plans to dissolve the township. I feel very strongly that the township should not be dissolved, and as you know, the Novak report also stated that the township should not be dissolved. And in regards to the pending referendum, when you do write the referendum, I would like to have input on the verbiage that will be on the ballot. I would like the referendum to state that the City of Evanston will provide the same services that the assessor's office provides today. So with all the programs that we have in place, I just feel very strongly that I would like that stated somewhere in the referendum. I further recommend that the township assessor's employees that handle the day-to-day operations of the assessor's office, the transition to the City of Evanston as employees so that they can continue to provide the level of assistance and customer service that the taxpayers of Evanston have come to expect. My current staff has the experience needed to run this office and be an advocate for the taxpayers of Evanston, and I sincerely hope that you will take this into consideration. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Janad Risky. The issue of the township being dissolved and the city taking it over may not save us any money. My reason is simple, and I could have a long list of items that the city's mismanaged. I continue to point out the fact of the water operations. The water operations are a $150 million capital asset sitting on the lake, and basically the township is, $1.4 million or somewhere in that range. The city is losing money on the water operations. The city also transfers $3 million out of the water fund to the general fund. In a sense, that's what the city is going to do with the township. The city has refused to tell me the profit on the 80% of the water sales that it makes to the other customers, which I believe, running my own numbers, show there's not much of a profit at all. It is also clear to me that some people here have been saying they're going to make a fortune selling water to other suburbs. When I've run those numbers and things and looked at it, you'll be higher than Chicago. But what's interesting in all this is who's going to suffer the most for all this mess. I'll tell you who's going to suffer: the poorest people in town, who are the township's clients, when you raise the water rates again at the budget hearing at 33%. And as far as the council, what I talked to this council about before, this council instructed the water department to tell people how many of the water transponders were breaking in town, and it never happened. And that's really it's a question of the public good, why people weren't told, so people could have excessive water bills due to that. If council members want to want the public to believe they can operate the township better, then please tell us about what's going on at the water plant. I think I will vote no on this dissolving of the township quite simply in protest of the continued fiscal mismanagement here that's going on. Because, frankly, it's really hypocritical to suggest the township's so poorly run when we have such major problems at our water plant. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Betty Esther, and I stay at 2031 Church Street. To the Board of Trustees, I attended the meeting on August the 5th, and when the vote was passed through all the discussion about the budget, and that vote was to was a budget to go to September so that the township could pay their bills. And then they passed the vote, and then they say, well, what it should be. So what the township was asking that, and what was voted on, that a budget, last year's budget, be extended with those numbers until the new budget takes place. And they was asking that until September, and that was to make sure that all the bills was paid. It was voted, it was passed. Then there was some discussion as to, did you mean the 2013, or are you talking about the 2014? There was no amendment to that motion. It was a vote that passed. To my surprise, this budget here, because The other thing that was told and asked of the township supervisor and his staff was to take that budget that they had presented that night, work it, and bring it back. I know that they had worked on that budget because I visited the township supervisor and we had a long chat. And when I looked at that and saying, wait a minute, where are these numbers? Who's this? Whose budget? I called them and they tell me, well, the bottom line is the city manager gave them a dollar amount and they had to fix those dollar amounts to the line item. I come and get one thing that I asked for, and that is to have a separate agenda with the township stuff on it. Thank you, Alderman Burris. I'm happy to see that. Very disappointed when the township, when this city, my city officials and my city manager keep messing in another government entity's business. The township, it has been stated, argued, couldn't have the lawyer, the clerks, the township clerk, the city clerk says that it is separate. The law says it's separate. So why is it so hard that we have our city manager doing township business? That should not be, and this budget should not be dealt with because it is not the budget that the township put together. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes citizen comment. City Manager, do you want to introduce Ordinance ITO 13?
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of the Township Board. As has been mentioned, there was a Township Committee meeting held recently where the 2013-2014 budget of the township was discussed. At the conclusion of that meeting, it appeared clear that there was not a clear path for the adoption of a budget. So I am here this evening, as the council has asked me to advise you on township matters in the past. I'm here this evening to recommend that the Township Board consider this ordinance 1T0-13, which would be a 9-month budget for the Township of Evanston that would take it to December 31, 2013. This would be a 75% budget of the previous budget that was passed for fiscal year 12-13. This will allow, for the first time this fiscal year, the Township Board to have the legal authority to spend money. It will then allow us to move forward. Would recommend at the Township Committee's meeting on September 16th that an ordinance be considered to change the Township's fiscal year to January 1 to December 31, that city staff would work with Township staff on preparing a 2014 budget then for your consideration. I think that it's unfortunate that we've gone this long without a township budget. I think it is prudent and responsible to move forward with an adopted budget for the township and believe by then also moving forward with a 12-month budget on a January 1, December 31 time frame, we can hopefully avoid the situation that the township finds it's in currently. So, Madam Mayor, I would ask consideration of Ordinance 1T-0-13.
Thank you. Alderman Rainey?
Trustee Tisdall.
Sorry, Trustee Rainey.
I've mentioned this before during council meetings. I truly believe that our administration has no business introducing ordinances, resolutions, etc. This seems to me to be the job of Trustee Holmes, who chairs the Human Services Committee, to introduce this. I appreciate, and God knows I watched that meeting the other night, the Human Services meeting, that Trustee Holmes chaired in a brilliant manner. And I appreciate the help of Matt getting this budget before us, and I support 100% the 9-month budget. However, I really need an explanation for adjustments to that 9-month budget I must say, I did not go over it with a fine-tooth comb today. It sort of was at the end of my list today, like page 900 or something, and I just skimmed over it. Did we make adjustments for the removal of certain employees who will not be receiving salaries? Did we make some of those adjustments? Because my reading of the memos had to do with, it is a 3/4 exact representation of the previous budget, which is really extremely generous, seeing that I think one of the employees that's gone was making $70,000 to $80,000 a year. So what's the story? I just need an explanation for that. Whatever member of our staff can help me with that.
Madam Chair, members of the Township Board, Trustee Rainey, the Township Board has traditionally adopted a dollar amount. The line item has been provided for your information, but the Township Board adopts a dollar amount. We are proposing just the dollar amount at the 3/4 level. If the Township Board wishes to give additional direction to the supervisor and the assessor regarding staffing, as you've done in the past, that's your prerogative. But again, there is no adopted budget for the township, and our recommendation is to fund it at that 3/4 level. And city staff will continue to work with the township staff regarding staffing levels and to monitor their spending so that they do not exceed by December 31 the dollar amounts enumerated in this ordinance.
All right, let me continue. We're missing, we've let go on around 80,000 with benefits, God knows how much it totals. We're also not paying, I think it's, what is it? Is it $9,000 a month in rent? Approximately $8,000 to $9,000 a month, like $8,600 a month in rent. We're not paying that starting, September 1st? Those are pretty large numbers when you multiply them times 9. I really think there needs to be a reduction in at least those two lines. I don't know I have no idea what's going on in the township. So I don't know who else is gone. I understand somebody got hired today. I feel like a trustee without a township because I have no idea what is going on there. But I do know that the purpose of the continuing budget, which I support 100%, needs to be modified because it's overly generous. Overly generous, because I am not supporting a line item in that budget that allows for an $80,000 salary and an $8,000 a month rent.
Supervisor Gaspard, did you want to respond? Or do you want your staff to?
Yeah, I would. Trustee Winnie, good evening to the Board of Trustees. Trustee Winnie, the rent is $6,000 plus. You will see the reflect. And we short at least we short one caseworker. Today I make an introduction phone call to hire so we can move on because we have more than 150. It's about $35,000.
What about the executive director?
The executive director, yes, the salary was $72,000 plus. But Madam, yes.
I'll go with $72,000.
Yeah, the $72,000 is no longer with us. Now, my caseworkers, we plan to hire them with $35,000. And we currently have a case worker with us right now, just one case worker. He's making $48,000 plus.
Alderman Grover, did you have, Alderman Rainey, do you have more questions?
A few more, but I'm going to.
Thank you, Alderman Rainey. Alderman Grover?
Thank you, Trustee Tisdall.
I'll get it sooner or later, maybe.
When will the move be completed to the Civic Center? When's the last month rent you pay at Bain and Dodge?
September 23rd.
September 23rd.
Yes.
So there doesn't need to be in the future budget for next year.
Yes.
Any consideration of, so it's not there. And what is the status of the lease? Are there penalties? Are we withdrawing from the lease early?
Our lease will be completely
Lease expires
over.
then.
It expires.
All right. And then I think we ought to be sure to confirm with the township code that we can operate on a January 1 fiscal year. I know that the township code is pretty archaic in a lot of ways, and it prescribes some of our budgeting calendar. And I just want to make sure
our
that
calendar year in the beginning, and then you changed us to a fiscal year.
so we're
So
not
it
going
would
to
be
trip
okay.
up the
No.
township code by moving back to a
Calendar year,
12-month fiscal year. Right. Thank you.
And for Alderman Rainey, the executive director, the only amount of money that you will see in the budget that I will put together with the numbers that was given to me from the city will be the amount that she was paid out, and that's it, that we've already expended.
But that has nothing to do with the budget that
Matt?
That has nothing to do with the budget that Matt provided us with, correct? I think it was Matt.
He told me he didn't provide a budget.
It's an exact three-quarter budget of the previous
And
year.
just the
so-
dollar. Just the
Right,
bottom
he
line
just gave me a dollar amount.
Well, so,
And then I
but
will
the
break it
dollar
down.
amount included the $7,000 a month rent and the
No, it
$72,000.
won't. Once you see the budget, it will not. Everything will end in September, at the end of September. He gave me a dollar amount, not a budget.
Just when I just want to, please, just like you, I want to say that I am so pleased to have the staff, Mr. Wally, working with me and Matt, so we can come. We don't see another meeting like last week.
Thank you. Alderman Holmes?
I was just going to say.
Trustee Holmes. I'm going to go.
Thank you, Trustee. We will have another Human Services Committee meeting on September 16th, and at that time, we should be able, Trustee Rainey, to provide you with all of the information in terms of the new budget with the rent out and all the other adjustments, because there are payrolls, there are a lot of different things that will be adjusted, and we'll have to look at. I'm sorry.
Present you with a complete budget.
Absolutely.
based off of the numbers.
We tried to do that before, but we weren't able to get it.
But the problem is this, Trustee.
Trustee Rainey, go right ahead.
H1, approval of Township of Evanston bills. We are not in any way dealing with anything having to do with the budget tonight. Is that correct? Is that correct?
That's true. Yes.
So where's the money coming from?
Is it
We're paying a
approval of a
bunch
flat
of bills
budget?
tonight.
Madam Chair, members of the Township Board, we are bringing the township in line with statute.
Thank you.
By having an authorized budget, which will authorize past and future expenditures.
But which we will vote on as trustees,
Those bills list expenditures will continue to come through the
budget. Will the will the 9-month budget be before the township board to vote on?
what is before the board is what you've had previously, which is an ordinance with a dollar amount. One for the General Assistance Fund and one for the General Township Fund. That has been the tradition, I think, as Alderman Holmes has mentioned, and the Township Supervisors indicated, there will be a revised line item budget to match the allocation at the September 16th meeting.
Okay.
Supervisor Gaspard, do you intend to run the township without an executive director?
Yes, but I would tend to hire a township manager. With concern of other township, and I was advised that we do not need an executive director.
What's the difference between a township manager and an executive
because
director?
executive director mostly deal with policy and more than day-to-day operations. And a manager is more about the operations. For instance, when we come in to move to the city, as of September 23rd, I hope to get a manager to run the day-to-day operations. because I myself go to the office every day, and it's really hard on my time. I do understand that, Trustee Tisdales.
Good. Trustee Grover?
Is it appropriate for me to move introduction of ITO 13, setting a 9-month budget for the township? This is introduction of the ordinance. It's appropriate. Such budget, which proposes a continuing pro rata sum derived from the previously approved fiscal year 2012-2013 township budget.
Trustee Rainey.
Yes. Supervisor, I would really appreciate receiving a copy of that budget in advance of the meeting, not to have it delivered here. And also, when you transmit your budget electronically, could you make certain that it is not scanned so that we can comment on it? It is very difficult when you have hundreds and hundreds of pages to do some work on the screen and then some work on paper. It needs to be transmitted electronically to the city as opposed to...
I will do so, Trustee Manning. Thank you so much.
Because that way we can work with the numbers.
Yes.
Trustee Holmes?
And Supervisor, along with that request from Trustee Rainey, could you also provide us with the plan that you have in terms of reorganizing the office? Because if you're going to move to a different organizational structure, what township manager, whatever, I don't care what the title is, but so that we can understand what those positions are and what duties that they will have, so that we can understand who the staff is and what they're doing.
Thank you, Trustee Holm. I'm glad you brought that up. And yes, I believe the township should be restructured. As of yesterday, I was meeting with a consultant. Then I'm going to meet with her. So I'll see what can we do to move the township forward, and I will keep you posted and even invite you. She's a consultant from the town, Evanston.
All right. Thank you. I don't see any more lights, so it's been moved and seconded to introduce this budget. City Clerk, would you call the roll?
Alderman Rainey?
Aye.
Trustee Rainey?
Aye.
Trustee Burris?
Aye.
Trustee Fisk? Trustee Braithwaite? Trustee Wynn?
Aye.
Trustee Holmes? Wilson?
Aye.
Trustee Holmes?
Aye.
Trustee Tindem?
Aye.
Trustee Grover?
Aye.
9-0.
A point of clarification. Township Clerk, I believe that I do have a vote too. I vote aye.
No, you don't.
Okay, well, we'll clarify that later.
I'm sorry.
Good try.
Thank you.
All right, City Manager.
Yeah, so, Madam Chair, members of the Township Board, so from here, we would propose to city staff, township staff would propose to come back to the Human Services Committee on September 16th. We'll work with the township staff to have the information you've requested available for the Human Services meeting on the 16th. We would also bring forward for the Township Board's consideration an ordinance changing the fiscal year to January 1, December 31. And then also, we would have before the Human Services Committee to bring back to the full council a consideration of a binding referendum question for the March 2014 ballot for the dissolution of Evanston Township. As you are all aware, Governor Quinn signed the authorizing bill. That bill authorizes the City Council, not the Township Board, to call the election. So the ordinance to call the election would be considered by the Evanston City Council. So our plan would be to have that ordinance for consideration at Human Services on September 16th, and then have a first reading at the City Council's meeting on September 23rd, then have a special Township Board meeting on September 23rd to wrap up the budget and to have a first reading of the ordinance to amend the fiscal year. So that's staff's proposal for the next several weeks as far as township matters.
Thank you. Trustee Rainey.
When, Trustee Tisdale, when is the next election?
March.
Until March.
Some Tuesday in March.
And do we?
March 14th.
When is the deadline for referendum? I didn't hear if you said that.
Yeah, it would be at the end of the calendar year.
Oh, end of the calendar, okay.
All trustee Rainey, members of the board, our recommendation, though, would be to move forward with consideration now so that
Right.
it's
Oh, no, I
so that it's
understand.
satisfied, but
Yeah.
well within the requirements
Right.
of the county clerk.
Thank you.
Thank you. Could we have, oh, sorry, Val.
I need direction. Last Monday, you specifically instructed us to pay bills and not to hire. So as I'm doing the budget, are we hiring or?
It's up to the township supervisor.
I think that would be at the discretion of the township supervisor.
Okay. Okay.
You better have some money.
Could,
That
would,
concludes our...
would someone like to make a motion to adjourn as the township board?
So move.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Back to City Council meeting. The next item on the agenda is citizen comment, and given the number of names, you each have about 2.5 minutes. I'm going to call the first 4 names. If you would come forward and give your name and address, and I will let you know when your time is up. Rodney Green, Joey Conway, Junad Risky, and Landl Brown. Go down.
Joey Conway, 535 Custer. I'm Joey Conway. I'm a board member for Senior Connections. We've been in existence for over 22 years, advocating for isolated seniors. We have had or have seniors in retirement communities, nursing homes, and life care facilities, and are keenly aware of the challenges they face. Since the sale of the North Shore Hotel, 70 seniors have vacated the facility, not because of the construction nuisance, but because the rates have increased and they are no longer able to afford to reside here. One of our seniors, Aileen, is a perfect example of an ex-Evanstonian who was forced to move to the Breakers from the North Shore Hotel after her rent went up $200 and her meals, totaling $420 extra a month, were no longer included. Her cost of living jumped up 25%, and the renovations are not even fully complete. She was a longtime volunteer at Chute Junior High School and an Evanston resident for over 20 years. Some would say there is plenty of affordable housing in Evanston. After all, we were given 4 examples of places comparable in price to the North Shore Hotel. However, there are no vacancies in any of these retirement communities, and it can take up to 3 years to get an apartment. The other options are too expensive for low to middle income seniors with entrance fees of at least $90,000 plus monthly fees of up to $4,000. There are plenty of vacancies for all these facilities. What does that tell us? Well, it tells me the need for affordable housing is real. Since the 2000 census, the population in Evanston has remained stagnant, except for the senior population, which has increased by 30%. 1 out of these 10 seniors lives in poverty. There is no doubt that there is a need for renovation at the North Shore Hotel, but at what cost? Another option would be for seniors that are forced to leave to just get a regular apartment that they can afford. This takes away the accessibility and safety of a retirement community. Many of these people made Evanston what it is today, a community that cares and supports their own. What kind of support are we showing if we can't even reserve 10% of the rooms at the North Shore Hotel? I have a 91-year-old grandmother that lives in a retirement community. I would definitely not feel comfortable with her living in an apartment on her own without the assistance and safety of a retirement community. And I do not think that it is fair to expect seniors whom have raised families and resided in Evanston for years to move out of this community. I ask you, aldermen and women of Evanston, to please take what I have said to heart and consider the long-term effects of this issue. This is driving out people who have spent their lives building a home in this community, and now they have to leave. These are the architects of our community. Thank you for your time, and I hope that you can help.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, Alderman, City Manager Bobkowitz. I'm speaking on item H4. With this, I believe that we have enough laws on the book to have enough safe zones for the schools. And I believe that if this passes, then we should do it across the board where that the same possibilities for all schools be represented. Where it's not just one school, one area, there should be a safe zone for every school that's here in Evanston. And I think if we do it that way, you need to take it back, reevaluate what you were doing, and then realize that all of our kids need protection, no matter which school they attend to. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to be very brief because I'm going to speak both on agenda and non-agenda. On the DIV, that bicycle program, it appears to me the city did not coordinate this, and I have to agree with Alderman Rainey. They didn't really do a good job in locating those. On another item, the CIP, that's a capital improvement program. Here again, we're talking about the township's problems. Looks like to me the city's underspending their capital very dramatically. We're at the 6-month point here, and it looks very like they're really at less than 10% or so on capital. Unfortunately, if this is how we're managing our capital, we have a real problem. And finally, on the item I spoke about at the other meeting on the electrical safety, I'll be back on that because I think there are some issues there. Thank you.
Thank you. Landell Brown, Barbara Sitter, Sue Carlson, and Eric Witherspoon. 930 Michigan, Mr. Brown.
I think that was the soccer man, wasn't it, the soccer guy?
Good evening. My name is Barbara Sittler. I'm from 825 Ridge Terrace here in Evanston, and I'm the Executive Director of Senior Connections. I want to lend my support to what our board member was talking about and just ask you to think for a bit about the population of aging people in the city of Evanston. This is the fastest growing population in the country. Every day in the nation, we have 10,000 people who are age 65 or older, become 65 or older. We have a huge amount of people who are living in Evanston who have very low fixed incomes. They are not going to be earning any more money as they age. And as we all age, we become increasingly vulnerable. We have an obligation to look at what these people need and how we're planning for the future. This population is growing. It's going to need support. It has provided an enormous amount of riches to this community. It has created Evanston. And while we have wonderful things going on in this city, we are not attending to the very clear and very obvious needs of these vulnerable older adults. There is no affordable housing in Evanston for low to mid-income seniors. The only housing that's available through CHA and HUD is maxed out on their waiting lists, and it will be years before people get in there. So there's nothing there. The North Shore Hotel has a long history of being a wonderful resource which provides a walking community, a working community for older adults who can purchase things at the stores nearby, become volunteers with the elementary schools, the high schools. They are matched often through our program with students at Northwestern University, and they continue to remain vibrant and contributing. As they leave the North Shore Hotel, they are finding no place to live that has anywhere near the level of safety, and so many of them have left Evanston altogether. So we're losing some of our pillars, some of our staunchest, most wonderful creators of Evanston, and I urge you to consider requiring a 10% set aside in the renovations of the North Shore Hotel. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor and City Council members, my name is Sue Carlson. I live at 2679 Stewart, and I'd like to support fully what we have just heard about the issues at the North Shore Retirement Hotel. This institution has provided moderately housed moderately priced housing for vulnerable seniors with incomes of $30,000 to $50,000 a year, whereas some of our HUD buildings provide housing for lower income seniors. But as you've just heard, there's no openings. There are no openings there, and there won't be openings for years. So I agree with the comments that this is an issue of our throwing out a large proportion of our longtime residents because they're not going to be able to continue to afford to live in this facility. One of the things that I have been most concerned about in all of what I have read about the new owners of this hotel is that these future rental prices for the apartments are all over the map. It's very clear to me that a prospective resident in this facility should be extremely alert that the actual cost of any rental apartment in their facility be clearly specified in writing before they move in. As an example, the letter that they provided in this packet says that one-bedroom apartments will average $2,000 a month. But their website advertising this property cites one-bedroom costs between $2,520 to $3,655. That doesn't average out to be $2,000 a month. There's an even larger discrepancy in the numbers for two-bedroom rents. And even if the rents cited on their website include meal costs, these variously published numbers continue to be inconsistent. As you move forward with this proposal, please be aware that the effect of this change in availability of moderately priced housing will exactly happen as they're describing. People are going to move out of Evanston. Longtime residents, longtime folks who have been really part of this community for years are going to lose their connection with our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, good evening. I'm Eric Witherspoon. I'm the superintendent of Evanston Township High School District 202. I'm glad that our meetings are generally over about this time.
Don't rub it in.
I'm getting quite an education in civics this evening, so it's great to be here. Speaking in regard to an item that you have on your agenda this evening, and that's the Safe Schools Zone. And I just want to make a comment to you asking for your support. We really are trying to do everything we can at Evanston Township High School to keep our children safe. And it is a big concern of ours. And I'm certain you would want it to be, that the educators in your community take it so seriously. And it is a big issue for us. And here in the 21st century and the digital age, it's not getting any easier to keep children safe. And I know you read the newspapers and you see the things that go on, not only in our own community, but in other communities. And I think that we as a community and we as adults have an obligation to do everything we can to help young people have as much safety as we can try at least to provide for them. I very much appreciate the comment from City Clerk Green because while this issue in front of you tonight is an intergovernmental agreement that you've worked to draft up with us having requested to have a safe school zone, I know you've been working too with District 65 to address the same kind of issue with the District 65 schools as well. And while I can't speak directly to that, I can certainly agree with the concern that it's all the children across this whole community that need us as adults to do whatever we can, to take whatever steps we can to try to keep them safe. So the proposal before you, in a nutshell, is we're asking for an extension of the safe school zone surrounding our school, and it would be true of the other schools in Evanston, so that it would not only extend out to the end of our property, but actually across the street and to the sidewalk across it. Because what we find is a lot of people do use the excuse of that area as a place to congregate when there's sometimes posturing and, quite frankly, up to no good. We wouldn't anticipate that it would be something that would be needed every day, because many of us are out there every day and we see the needs come and go. But on the days that we see the trouble brewing, on the days that we see something really starting to bubble up, if we had the ability to actually, and the authority to say to folks, hey, you're in a safe school zone, you need to move along. I can't begin to tell you how much that one tool could help us diffuse things and keep our children safe. I'll just end. They're not all going to speak, but I did want to indicate that I'm joined by some folks who live this every day with the children at our high school. I'm joined by our assistant superintendent and principal of ETHS, Marcus Campbell. I'm joined by our associate principal, Vernon Clark. I'm joined by our director of safety, Sam Patinio, and I'm also joined by the president of our school board, Gretchen Livingston. I guess it was in closing, but I want to say our board has vetted this quite publicly. We've been working on this for months. We took it to the city school liaison committee meeting, and there was a news coverage of it then. We put it on our agenda. We had it on 2 public board meetings. We had public presentations, televised, of course. And so we have really reached out to try to let the community know what we're asking and why it's important. But now we come to you because we know it's your authority. Thank you.
Please be quiet. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Witherspoon. Next is Carla Sutton, Betty Esther, and Madeline Ducray. And last, Bridget Giles.
Good evening, members of the council and city manager. I'm Carla Sutton. I reside at 1821 Darrell Avenue. I stand to oppose Resolution H4 38R13. I offer support to the aldermen of the 2nd and 5th Ward who addressed their concerns that this seems to be a continuous disrespect and disregard for the citizens of the ward who will be most adversely affected by this extension. I want to affirm that I respect the 2nd and 5th, and I also want to let them know that we as citizens stand firmly behind them when they represent our concerns and our needs at this board. I remind them also that compromise with the board can occur only when both parties have something to gain and something to lose, and that we have generally gone along with everything that the other members of the City Council want that has often cost us deference and disillusion. It is always a problem when we want something in the 5th Ward. When we wanted a school, we didn't get it. The city voted against us. When we wanted a youth employment program for our ward to address the double-digit unemployment of our youth and underemployment, we received more affordable housing that did not employ contractors in proportion of our population. So I hope that the City Council is not consistent in its history where it puts a burden on the 5th Ward to support the other wards of Evanston. This resolution passed also has concerns about being enforced. We in Evanston always emphasize diversity, but your policies that affect the 5th Ward and 2nd Ward without equal representation affects us adversely. And if we want diversity, you can't have diversity without a lack of empathy and sensitivity to people who pay taxes in this community. I'm very concerned about the violence in our community. And there are several incidents of stabbing, shooting, and robbery on a certain day that escalated the concern for the high school. I live within a half-mile radius of the high school, but I do not want a knee-jerk response to the reaction that justifies this proposed legislation. When you extend the boundaries of the safe school zone, there's a possibility that the business and the residents in that zone will be adversely affected. The provisions of
Mr.
reasonable
Sutton,
suspicion
I need you
is
to
vague.
wrap up. I'm sorry.
I will also give the police the definition of reasonable suspicion: WWB, DWB, RBWB. If you are looking for reasonable suspicion It's driving while black, walking while black, and riding your bike while black.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Betty Esther. I stay at 2031 Church Street. I stay, my house, when you leave the high school, if someone did not stop, they would wind up in my living room. I don't know what to say. Right now, I am totally and trying to find some reason for this without looking at it being, it's a racial issue. Because there has not in this, everything I read that came to you, there is no statistic that shows the number of incidents that has happened around the high school. I know how many happen around there. I walk around Dodge and Church, Lake and Dodge to see what is going on. I know when it's going on. I have seen kids out there scuffling and everything, have seen the owners of the business come and stop them and move them on. Since they kind of complained, I guess they complained enough until the police start sitting there. Mr. Clark stated at the Human Service meeting that there's patrol cars, there's detective cars at Dodge and Lake, at Dempster, at Dodge and Church. And sometimes there's some on Brown Street. And then I have to stop and ask, who is paying for this? Are we going to add more cars now? We're going to have more policemen sitting on the corners to patrol and enforce this new safety zone? Who is going to pay for this? Who's going to protect the citizens in the other part of the community when you have them over here by the high school, when you do not have really data that support this kind of action? The policemen themselves, if you was to talk to them and ask them and look at their report, they will tell you there has been a decrease in the kids gathering or getting into scuffles since when they are around and since they have been there.
Ms. Esther, I'm sorry, I need you to wrap up.
The incident that happened that disturbed it and brought, and looking at the school board meeting, no, I did not attend it. As the mayor can tell you, I used to be there with them until they left. I don't do that anymore. But I did watch the school board meeting, courteous of their video that they had.
Ms. Esther, I do need you to wrap up, please.
Give me the courtesy that you gave to the supervisor. He's in the school. It's in my house. It's my home. Now, I just have this to say. Do not pass it. You pass it, and we go into court.
Thank you.
Are we going to executive session?
Hello, everyone. My name is Madeline Ducree. I'm a resident of the 5th Ward. I made a comment at the Human Services meeting last Monday about the safety zone, the new safety zone. I'm not in agreement with it, and I'll tell you why. But let me say something about the Human Services. What is the Human Services Committee about? Is it about humanness? I am ashamed of those people who did not listen to the people on that Human Services meeting last Monday. It was insensitive. 3-2. You did not, District 202, the school board did not inform the people of what was happening. Betty Esther and I paid our money, walked around that school to try to inform the people. If we can do that, what are we paying our taxes for? You can't do that? Come on. Let me tell you another thing. If you, the Human Services, can spend months, weeks, months, on how many chickens should be in somebody's backyard, if you can spend weeks and months on how many cats we can have in our houses, how many dogs, what category we're going to put them in, you need to be sensitive to the people of Evanston. It's pitiful. Human beings treated like this. I understand that Dr. Murphy, Superintendent Murphy, when he told me, I asked him, I said, you're going to pass a safety zone. But Dr. Murphy, what about those dogs at Lincolnwood School that I've been telling you about, the safety of our children? September 2012. It is now 2013, and you all haven't solved anything, I say, at District 65? And they're going to come here and ask you to pass a safety zone? Those children not only have allergies against peanut butter and jelly, they have allergies against dogs. My second son was bit by a German Shepherd. Don't tell me that dogs don't have teeth and they won't use it. I've talked to the District 65, the school board, they ignored me. Dr. Murphy tried to do what he could to convince the people over there. I don't give a hoot what color they are and how much money they have. You follow the law like you want our children to follow the law. They are looking at us, to quote you, Mayor. They are looking at us. You adults don't follow the rules and you want our children to follow the rules? What the heck is going on in Evanston? We're running scared. America is running scared. Let's do something worthwhile and work together. If any of you want to become mayor, you better think twice, because we're going to make your day. We're making your day to do better than what you're doing.
Mrs. Ducray, I need you to wrap up.
I will.
Thank you.
And the mayor, she's trying to do her business. The youth program. Let's work together here, okay? Be fair. Do what's right. And I thank Dr. Murphy for trying. Thank you.
Thank you. Bridget Giles, 1702 Dodge.
Good evening. My name is Bridget Giles, and I have the barbershop at 1702 Dodge in Evanston, Ebony Barbershop, and I'm here to represent all of Church and Dodge. I don't know anything about this safety zone. I just found out Saturday. I would have appreciated if they would have let us know something. I know nothing about it. Now, if they do the safety zone, it's going to affect the businesses. And we've had a business there for 52 years. The kids been safe for 52 years, and they will continue to be safe for another 52 years, whether you zone it or don't zone it. But it's going to affect the businesses. We already have, at 2:30, we've got a mob of policemen in front of the shop. My customers have nowhere to park, nowhere, because the high school has the lot across the street, which is locked after they get out of school. So we only have parking from the corner of Church and Dodge to the alley, because behind the alley is residential. So our clients only have 4 spots. So if they park across the street, that's a $30 haircut. So now, if you do the safety zone, we're going to have more policemen in front of the shop. It doesn't look good for business. It doesn't look good. So maybe I can get some more information about this, or maybe the high school could give me some information so I can find out exactly, what that means for the safety zone for the businesses. Because you got 2 barbershops, you have a corner store. The corner store is hurting because of the ordinance where they can't sell cigarettes or they can't sell a lighter. People smoke. So they lost business on that. So it's going to hurt our businesses. And I want to be there another 52 years. So if you all could just take that into heart, and help us out, because they're going to be safe regardless. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Susan Kelly, Mary Rosinski, Junad Rizki, and Linda Damashek.
Good evening. My name is Susan Kelly. My husband Peter and I reside at 1316 Davis Street in the 4th Ward, and I'm here to discuss item that is not on the agenda tonight, but is of grave concern to me and the people who live around me. And it is to ask you to address the hazardous traffic conditions at the intersection of Ridge and Davis Streets. Several conditions make this intersection challenging to pedestrian traffic. 3. First, there are 3 institutions at or near that intersection that draw people to work or school. There's Roycemore School, Dewey Elementary School, and now the Northwestern University Offices of Alumni and Development. Because of the school nature, many of the pedestrians are children during the school year. Additionally, the commuters using the Davis Street Metro Market add foot traffic in the morning and the evening hours. There is high pedestrian traffic in the area. There's a high volume of traffic at Ridge. Third, there's little or no enforcement of traffic laws in the area. In fact, when I personally complained to an Evanston police officer investigating a pedestrian that was struck nearby, he acknowledged the danger of the area, but told me there were simply no resources available for traffic enforcement in Evanston. So, these 3 conditions, make crossing Davis and Ridge dangerous, but I'm particularly concerned for the children who will soon cross again to go to school. You have to see this intersection to believe it. And in fact, you will, because I personally went out and made a movie. I took 3 mornings, random mornings, between 7:30 and 8:30, where people would be commuting to school, and I put together a best of the fast and reckless driving at this intersection. When you watch my movie, you decide if you would like to cross this intersection twice a day. You decide how you would feel about children crossing this intersection on the way to 2 elementary schools. I'm here to see you all tonight because I brought this situation twice to my alderman with no resolve. I'll share with you the same suggestions I've shared with him just to intend to calm the traffic in this area.
I do need you to wrap up, sir.
First, can we create a school zone where there is a school? Roycemore has no indication that there's a school or traffic would slow or there's children in the area. Secondly, can we use some of the speed warning signs that are available in front of Northwestern on Sheridan Road to alert drivers to slow down? And finally, can we have any enforcement of the traffic laws, and particularly at some teachable moments at the beginning of the school year? Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, Mary Rosinski, 1729 Chancellor. I'm just here from noparksale.org to try to get some clarification on the process by which public input will be solicited and the time frame and meetings for the Harley Clark Mansion, Coach House, and Greenhouse. And what we're hoping is that from this discussion, of course, that there will be a venue there that is not only income producing, but also will have a educational component to it of some sort. So just if you have some time or you could let us know about this. I know there's an email list to sign up for, but it doesn't really say what's going to happen with this process. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to speak on a FOIA I received from the city. This was for the lease between the Evanston Arts Center and the city of Evanston. While I'm not a lawyer, the document states clearly that the Arts Center is responsible for the majority of repairs and the upkeep to the building versus the city. It also appears the city can start repairs at any time on that building and make the Arts Center pay in rent. It also appears to me the city should proceed with some of these repairs since they were long overdue. It appears the Arts Center's responsible was to correct the electrical and the ventilation in the building as clearly stated in this lease. In my reading of the lease, it suggests the Arts Center would even be liable if it moved out of the building for some of these repairs. Clearly, the Evanston Arts Center is liable for more than $1 in rent a year, which the taxpayers have we've been made to believe. Some here have suggested we taxpayers should pay for the Arts Center to move out of the building. I would suggest the Arts Center owes the city a substantial amount of money to really honor this lease. Council members have a responsibility to protect the public interest and not play politics and protect our tax dollars. What is very interesting here, public officials have claimed the city has no money to repair the building. But really, what it amounts to is the Arts Center has really been responsible by this lease. I think public officials now owe us an explanation. What is their action in regards to honoring this lease at this point, along with any further discussions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Linda Damashek, 1318 Judson. I'm here to propose some criteria that any proposal for adaptive reuse of the Harley Clark Mansion should meet. Number one, that it be for public community uses and not privatized, especially that commercial lodging of any size is not an appropriate use. Number two, all proceeds from any revenue generated from the building should be used to cover the operating and maintenance costs of the building. Number three, that it adhere to the unanimously passed Lakefront Master Plan of 2008, which states in goal number 5 to emphasize the balance between natural, unprogrammed lakefront with variety of lakefront appropriate activity programming to engage all users and generate limited revenue while honoring the lakefront's environmental integrity in surrounding neighborhoods. As far as the process, it's very important to involve the public in a proactive and participatory way in the planning process to envision the compatible public uses for the Harley Clark Mansion. We look forward to participating in this cooperative process. Thank you so much for your consideration.
Thank you. Betty Esther, Sue Lallenbach, and I'm not sure if these are mistakes. Bridget Giles, did you want to speak again? No? Okay. You don't have to. It's okay. Okay, why don't you I'll give you a chance after Sue Lallenbach. Okay, you're the third. Go ahead, Ms. Esther.
Thank you. I have a question. It's more than a speech. I have a question. At the July 22nd meeting, there was some discussion about the NOVAC consultant report from the group out of Ohio. The young lady gave her comments and things on the report. She gave highlights of that report. I did find the report in two places. One of them was on the Evanston Now website. Thanks, Bill Smith. The other one was in the packet. The date on the report said April 2013, but I hear that the report was really finished in February. My question is, when is this report going to be discussed in public with the residents before they face or have to even consider the referendum of dissolution of the township? We paid a total of approximately $28,000 for this report, for the study, and for bringing the young lady here to tell us the summary of the report. The report says in quite a few pages, on page 12, 16, I think it was 14, I'm not sure, but enough places that they did not see any reason to dissolve the township, that the city and the township did not have anything in common. None of their service was duplication. They did no work of the same thing. They was two separate entities. So my question is, when are you, since the council paid for this with the taxpayer dollars, when are you going to bring this report out or put it on the website so it is easily found that people can read it? Or have it so at the public library so people can come and read it. Our tax dollars paid for this. You remember in civics classes, as Mr. Whittemore said, as the superintendent from the high school, a civic class, it has a chart. And at the top of that chart is the resident is over. So it comes bottom down, not top up. So if we are paying your tax and we are trusting you to
Ms.
direct
Esther,
you
I do
when we
need you to
tell
wrap
you
up.
that we have done, we want something or you done something, you paid for it, let us see it. Why is it a secret that the whole community cannot have open access and ready access to that document?
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Sue Lulbach. I work at Connections for the Homeless, and I live at 2145 Morse Avenue in Chicago. First, I just want to thank you very quickly. I want to thank City Council for approving the Home TBRA grant to Connections for the Homeless. I wasn't able to be here when that happened, and we were very happy, very excited about it, so thank you. Then, for tonight, on behalf of Connections for the Homeless, the YWCA Evanston North Shore and Youth Job Center, I would like to thank Mayor Tisdall, the City of Evanston, the Evanston Business Associations, and many of the businesses in Evanston for their support of our three agencies in helping people in need to increase their income potential and economic empowerment. Last week saw the kickoff of the second annual Evanston Works Together campaign. 44 stores in Evanston, up from 28 last year, will be donating 5% of their proceeds on the 4 Tuesdays in August to the employment and economic empowerment programs of these three agencies. In return, the agencies are promoting participating businesses and urging community residents, who are our donors and our volunteers, to shop at these stores that are participating. Several businesses are sponsoring this campaign, allowing us to purchase advertising. They include Houghton Mifflin Harcourt, Haggerty Consulting, Fuse Spirits, First Bank and Trust of Evanston, and Northwestern University. With the proceeds of this, which I have to admit sounds slightly frivolous given the very serious concerns that have been discussed here today, we are going to be doing some very serious work. The three agencies that will benefit from this are going to be helping over 500 Evanston residents to gain financial literacy, improve their job skills, and get jobs that pay a living wage. We thank everyone who has helped us to make this campaign possible, and we encourage all of you to shop and eat local on the 4 Tuesdays in Evanston. You can look at any of the participating agencies' websites, Connections for the Homeless, the YWCA, or Youth Job Center for a list of the participating stores and restaurants. So thank you.
Thank you. Would the lady in the back please come forward?
Say thank you for
I need your name and address,
My name
please.
is Bridget Ritter, and I live at 1450 Pittner Avenue in Evanston.
Thank you.
And I've been sitting here since 7 o'clock because I knew nothing, and I'm right behind the high school. I knew nothing about this law. And I just have some questions because my question is that when the school zone is extended, will I have to have a pass when I get off the bus to go to Dodge? My grandson, if he's walking down there, is he going to be stopped by the police because he doesn't have something to show that he's coming to his grandmother? Will my house value remain the same? Because do I have to, if I'm selling my home, do I have to tell people this is a school zone and what are the requirements? And so, to me, it's just a lot of questions that I do have that I'm just an ordinary, simple person. They're making this law, and all I know about law is that when it's made, some people fall through the crack, and those are the people that don't know what's going on. And Evanston High School, I'm sure they have a problem. But if they cannot stop the fighting on the school ground, they're not doing anything about what's going on their own in the school and on the school ground, and now we're having an extension. That's not going to solve the problem. I don't think so. But I hope, Mayor Tisdale, that you will take this seriously from us as residents, that a whole community is going to fall through the crack if this law comes.
The community, we will not let the community fall through the cracks, and this entire council is taking this very seriously. And we do.
Because
I pledge to you that I will try to make sure
like
that the
people
neighborhood
say,
is informed.
They can talk. Nobody lives in that neighborhood. But when you are black and you're constantly, you get the brunt of the police when they come around. And we're not making this up, okay? Everybody knows that this happened. And I don't want to have to sit 4 hours to get my grandson when he comes to me because his mother is working and will pick her when he gets off the bus at Dodge. I don't want to have to go to the police station to get him, and then they'll say it's a mistake because it's demeaning, and I hope that will be considered. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That concludes public comment. Alderman Rainey.
Madam Mayor,
Alderman Rainey
before
has a
before we
question.
move into our meeting, there are still people here interested in information about the safe school zone. One of the things we received today was a memo from Michelle Mason-Cup, our attorney, explaining some of the definitions having to do with the proposal. And one of the grave concerns that everybody has is that the safe school zone includes private property. How does the safe school zone ordinance affect people who, for example, are standing on this lady's front lawn, her grandson, or a stranger, or in front of Miss Giles' barber shop, or in her doorway? How are they affected? It's gnawing at me. I keep being told if you're on private property, you don't have a problem. If you're on the sidewalk, public property, and you are you're illegally standing there because you've been told once or twice, or you're causing trouble, whatever. That's understandable to me. But I need a clarification about the private property presence in the boundary of the safe school zone. So could Michelle explain it?
Well, I think we'll get to that.
Well, but people will leave.
All right.
This is an organization that is starting its work at 10 o'clock at night. So, while we're being punished, let's not punish the crowd and give them some information now on this.
I'd like to make a motion, actually, if I could.
Well, no.
About that.
If you don't mind, I would like this explained.
You'll like the motion.
No, I don't. I just asked for the courtesy of hearing the answer and then make the motion.
Okay, I'd like to move that we advance the item to the next item on the agenda.
Well, that's
because
fine,
it's at
but
the
I
end, so we can just kind of deal with the whole thing.
I still want to hear this before people leave. There are people at home falling asleep on the couch, believe it or not.
Agreed. So that's why I'd like to move that we advance this item to the next item on the agenda, if we could do that. Because that's what most of the people are here for.
That's absolutely fine.
But the problem is it's going to be moved to be held, and then we won't get any information, because once something's moved to be held, you can't do anything. So if we could just get some...
Well, before it's moved to be held, let's hear from Michelle.
Yes,
if she could respond
Absolutely.
to Alderman Rainey.
Good idea.
God. Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council members, City Manager Bobkowitz, Clerk Green. The resolution includes a map that's attached to the resolution that includes the boundaries of the safe school zone. It indicates that the school zone is extended to the public sidewalk that is across the street from each of the high school four corners. So it doesn't include private property. It includes the high school, the sidewalk that abuts the high school, the road and then the sidewalk that is across the street from the high school boundaries. And that is indicated on the
in front
exhibit.
of private property, is that not correct?
The public side, the sidewalk.
The sidewalk, but the public sidewalk is in front of private property, right?
In
you
front
have to
of-
walk out of your house onto the sidewalk. So, okay.
Yes.
Just let's be real clear.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yes.
And Michelle,
If you leave your house, and let's say you are one of the people that, I'm sorry, if you leave your house.
Could the audience please be quiet? Thank you.
If you leave your house and you're one of the, let's say you're on a list, that you're violating, you're trespassing, illegally trespassing if you are in a safe school zone. You leave your house, you cross the sidewalk, a cop sees you, you're going to go to your car, you can be arrested. I know that shows no common sense, but it could happen.
So the statute indicates, and this proposal also indicates for the intergovernmental agreement, that the school administrators need to give notice to the person prior to any arrest, that they're not allowed to be there, they have no lawful business being in the property. And if no notice is given, and the school administration is in charge of that portion, if no notice is given that it's improper, and then no arrest can be made.
But if notice is given, even if it's in front of your own home, if you've been suspended, and many kids are, then you are not allowed on this public sidewalk.
In front of your house.
Or what if you're a customer of Miss Giles' barbershop and you get out of your car or you get off the bus and you walk to her store?
The way that the statute is written is that if the student or the subject person, as defined under the statute, is in an area in which they have been instructed that they cannot be, then they need to move on or go to the business, go inside their business, go onto their private property, go into the home. That's the way that the statute is written.
Please be quiet. We're working on this. Alderman Wilson.
Thank you. And I think, first of all, let's try to remember that there's context here. School administrators are trying to do their best to have a safe environment for all of the students in Evanston. So that's what they're trying to accomplish. I think it was Ms. Ducre who mentioned we should be working together, and I think that's what we're all trying to do up here. So we're trying to get through the details of both the state statute and what's being proposed. So the goal is the same for everybody. The people in the neighborhood, I think your goal is the same as the school administrators. So it's a question of trying to develop something that makes everybody comfortable and helps enhance the safety of the school environment for the students. Now that said, I do have a couple questions, and then I have some comments. My reading, an editorial comment, this is based on a state statute, and boy, the state of Illinois really tends to do us lots of favors, and the drafting of this statute leaves a long list of things to be desired. Notwithstanding that, and so we didn't write this, the state passed this, so this is what we're left with. But it says that the school zone shall not include any portion of the highway not actually on school property. So highway is not defined. It uses the word street previously in the sentence, but my interpretation of that implies that the street wouldn't be included because it's not on school property. That's under school safe zone definition, subsection A. I realize, I'm springing all these questions on you, but so that's one of my concerns. Next, we're talking about school, sidewalk, street, next sidewalk. The safe zone shall not include any portion of the highway not on school property, but it also says public way immediately adjacent thereto. And the next sidewalk, it doesn't sound like that's public way immediately adjacent to the school. So I don't know that we could even include that additional sidewalk anyway, just based on the statute. So I have some strong reservations about the map based on what the state ordinance says. As Alderman Rainey has drawn attention to, and that's important, the police, this doesn't authorize the police to go out and just pick people up. It's two categories of people. It's employees or students who've been suspended or expelled. If they've been given notice, then they have to leave if they're asked to. The second category are, and this is the one that troubles me, it's a person, it could be any person, who is served with this notice, who remains on the property, but the ordinance says that his or her presence has been withdrawn by the school administrator. That's virtually without meaning. I mean, it could be any person or not any person. Somebody walking down the street, if somebody didn't grant you the authority to be there in the first place, how can you withdraw the authority? Mm-hmm. So this is a horrible statute.
Agreed.
Agree. So I have zero inclination to adopt something that incorporates this. I do desire to undertake the things, these basic ideas with, utilizing the school resource officers, the additional police resources, things of those natures. The tools that the school needs to make sure that they maintain a safe environment. We are in an environment that continuously whittles away at the tools that the schools and the communities have to address crime. Concealed carry, revoking the handgun bans and all of these other things. These whittle away at the tools that the police and the community have to address the problems. So in that context, we need to work toward these things. But these are real serious problems with this ordinance. So those are my reservations and my inclinations. So I think that I agree that we do need to work together a lot more closely. It's important that the community be involved. Usually, this is what happens. It gets publicized, and that's why we're here. That's why we're at this meeting, and that's why we're having the opportunity to hear people speak. So I don't think anybody's trying to pull the wool over anyone's eyes. That's what this process is for. So the comments I received...
Please, we're having the...
Okay, and...
Yeah, we're having the council meeting now, and we're going to try to take care of it.
And that's what we're doing. We're working together now to get something that works for everybody. So with everyone's input. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Alderman Rainey.
Well, we've been working on this for months and months and months, so obviously we're not trying to hide it. So I'm waiting for the motion that we're all going to love.
Alderman Holmes.
Well, I'm happy to make it. But before I do that, I certainly make it with the intent that we would sit down and work with the school district to renegotiate this whole idea of the safe school zone, to look at it very, very carefully. It misses a lot of things for me personally, and I stated those at Human Services. It doesn't have a sunset clause. It has not. The residents, and Alderman Rainey, you say that we've been working on it for months. I don't know who was working on it for months. We certainly became aware of it in the last couple of months. But residents and the businesses, no one went to them. I visited every business on Saturday just to make sure that I was correct, that nobody had come to talk to them from the school district or from the school board. And some of the residents went around and walked the whole perimeter to see if anybody had gone and talked to any of the residents. We can't find anyone who had been talked to. And it's just a courtesy thing. I mean, it's a respect thing that somebody should have spoken to them. So Alderman Grover had a really good idea of having a community meeting that maybe the school liaison committee could pull together and talk to the residents later. So I would like to move to hold this until we can pull all of this together and come up with a better plan.
It's been moved and seconded to hold it. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It will be held. That's 7-2. The motion passes. All right. I think it was 2 noes.
I'm a no. She said, it's 3 noes.
3 noes. Thank you. Alderman Rainey?
You know, I know that it's a procedure and a right of any alderman to hold an item, and I support holdovers. I really do. But after this length of time and the controversy, I think it would have been more productive for us to have at least, as a council, discussed within the context of a motion to introduce, and then if we couldn't make any progress, then to hold it. This way completely cuts off any discussion. We don't meet again for a month. Within that month, if this had been introduced tonight, I support introducing it tonight, but it's been held. I respect that. But a lot could have been done in that month, a lot.
Well, I think we can do some things with negotiating with the school district in the end.
I hope so, because I think our good faith efforts here are probably brought into question by some. I mean, nobody wants Mrs. Giles' customers arrested. Nobody wants that. And I think Don brought up some wonderful points. But
these are the same points that we brought up at Human Services, Alderman Rainey. And and you keep saying that people have been working on this forever. I don't know who those people are. I
haven't been, that's for sure. But
neither have I. And I know that I understand that our two representatives on the school liaison committee may have known and been working on it for months. And I'm really sorry. Maybe that should have been brought to one of our committees, and we could have had this kind of discussion. And I really get a little bit disturbed when we have this kind of conversation about an item that is important to one section of the community. And, to be really transparent, I'll say that, we have, and I've said this publicly, so I'm going to say it again, we have a high school, a top-notch high school that happens to sit in a low-income community with black and brown people, and we're trying to make other people feel comfortable, okay? I understand that, and I want to help do that. I have worked to get cameras and more lights and everything else. So we've done I think fantastic stuff. This just does not do it, and I think that we have to work on it to try and figure out if it's even the right thing to do. I mean, how can we tell people that they can't walk out of their house onto a public sidewalk where they pay taxes, where something may happen? It may not, but it may.
But I raised that issue. I understand that.
Okay, I think it's
got to have a discussion.
It's almost 10:15, and we haven't even gotten to the consent agenda. So let's take one more comment, Alderman Braithwaite, and then let's please move on.
I'll try to make it as brief as possible, Madam Mayor. Just thanking the members of council that voted to hold this. We did have a lengthy discussion at Human Services, and it's unfortunate that the folks from the high school left before we had a chance to have a full conversation. But I just want to quickly thank all the residents that came out on short notice. I think for the members of council, it's clear that, and I hope that you hear it, that people just don't know. And I think it would have been incredibly irresponsible for us to introduce this proposal without having the residents have an opportunity to weigh in and be part of the process. So to Madam Mayor and Alderman Holmes, we've been working on many, many issues, and I think at some point I would like to present it to the school liaison committee so that you do understand the amount of work that's been done over the past 2 years, because clearly we know where these stressors are coming from to get this passed. We know, and I know because I looked at Alderman Tendum on last week when a resident came to him at the YOU event. So I understand where the concern is coming from, and I just think you need to understand the amount of work that's being done. Every single person in that audience has been affected by some form of violence over the years. And for them to say, hold on, wait a minute, that should be a pause for all of us. So again, thank you to the members of council, and I'm looking forward to hosting a meeting. I've invited the superintendent to our next second ward meeting on, I think it's September 12th. I'll make that announcement during calls of the wards. Thank you.
Thank you. City Manager, special orders of business, second quarter fast financial report for fiscal year 2013.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, Mr. Lyons is here. I think given the hour, we do not in any way want to give short shrift to where things are at, but we're feeling generally positive where we sit at the mid-year. So this is we anticipated it being even a shorter report than normal, and so we have that, and we'll just ask Mr. Lyons to go through this responsibly but expeditiously.
I don't think I need the good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council, Clerk Green, Manager Bobkowitz. If we wish to dispense with the PowerPoint, I can go through it that quickly and keep the lights on.
Well, Mr. Lyons, I think there's a slide that you have where we are, the table at mid-year. Why don't we go to that slide, which I have not seen the presentation, but I bet you it's there. So if you look at our revenues at 50% of the year, we're at 50% of our revenue. So we're feeling generally good about all the revenue categories. Mari, do you want to talk about any in particular on the revenue side?
Just that we're at 50.5%. It's not that the staff and the council did such a great job of predicting. We had some things come forward a little more than we thought. Building permits, real estate transfer taxes, and sales taxes are lagging a little bit behind. But overall, we can't ask very much more than the stable revenues that we've got. Helps us plan from year to year. So, as the city manager pointed out, we're in very good shape on the revenue side.
And maybe we can look at the slide with the expenditures in the general fund. I think there's probably a table with the departments. Again, 47.5% and 50% of the year. That's a number that we want to look at. We're monitoring, I think, carefully the police department's budgets. My direction to Chief Eddington has been to spend the necessary resources to deal with the changes that we've been facing, the law enforcement challenges in the community. So you see they're just a little bit over budget at this point, and I commend Chief Eddington and members of his command staff for managing that budget as carefully as possible. So I think, again, we're generally feeling very positive on the expenditure side moving forward. Perhaps we could talk next about the capital budget. It was mentioned by a member of the public. If you look at it on a percentage basis, where we're at on the capital side, do we have a slide that just talks about capital? Again, I think all you have to do is look around Evanston, and you will see that we have invoices that we expect to receive from various contractors doing various projects throughout the community. So while you're seeing numbers as of 6/30, certainly the work that has been done since July 1st in all of these funds, we expect those numbers to continue to climb. So we're feeling very comfortable where we're at with the capital budget. Appreciate the City Council's desire to dive into this issue a little bit more deeply as we move forward with the budget preparation for 2014, and we'll get to the schedule of proposed meetings here in a moment. Maybe we can go back to the slide with the other funds, Marty, that you had.
We always are very concerned about the enterprise funds as well. So they're all running similar to the capital fund in that water, sewer, they both had some capital projects. We're just now seeing the bills for those. And also in water and sewer, it rained in June. That's all it did in June was rain. So, our revenues aren't quite where they're at, but they're coming back. So staff will monitor those. And then solid waste, as you can see, we continue to try and run that fund at a surplus each year to eat into the original deficit at which it started. So that's good news. So, again, nothing surprising going on in our enterprise funds. And I'll finish up. Again, to the point of capital projects, I counted up on the bills list, $1.4 million in this bills list. So we are starting to get the invoices in on capital. So we do anticipate coming in the year very similar to last year. Barring any surprises, snow all through November and December, barring any of those things, we should still come in with a very solid 2013 budget. So I'd be happy to take any questions.
Seeing no lights for questions, congratulations. I think you explained it very well.
We would like to talk, the last portion of this is to talk about the 2014 budget preparation and council calendar. This was also in your packet. We're proposing to do a number of things between now and the second week of December. The first, as we've talked about on several occasions this evening, for Monday, September the 16th, at the Human Services Committee, a number of township issues. I would also like to bring forward an update of where we stand on the Harley Clark Mansion, as well as the Noise Cultural Arts Center, and to offer suggestions to move forward with a downtown arts center proposal. That is something that has been discussed in the last several weeks. I think it's important that we keep the momentum going with that. Wednesday, September the 18th at 7 p.m., we have had in the last several years a public discussion of the budget issues prior to coming to you with a proposed budget. So we're proposing that would be on Wednesday, September the 18th. We will also conduct, as we have the last several years, a community outreach effort online and in other ways to have residents provide their feedback on budget priorities. On Monday, September 30th, which is a fifth Monday in September, proposing that the council once again meet in a goal-setting session in the Aldermatic Library. At your last goal-setting session, you identified 6 areas, and I think it would be prudent to spend 2 meetings talking about those 6 areas prior to adoption of the 14 budget. So I would propose for the evening of Monday, September 30th, being a evening goal-setting session in the Aldermatic Library. The proposed budget for the City of Evanston would be issued Friday afternoon, October the 11th. Would propose again on Monday, October 21st, the presentation of the budget and begin initial discussion. Then on Saturday, October 26th, I'd like to ask the council to do something different. You have spent one Saturday the last several years talking budget. This year, I would like to put you on a bus for the day, and I would like to take you around Evanston, and I would like to show you our capital needs. And rather than talk about the greenhouse at the Ecology Center, I'd like to take you to the Ecology Center. Rather than talk about the capital needs at Harley Clark, I'd like to take you there. Rather than to look at the beach ramps, I'd rather take you to the beach ramp. So would ask that you consider a Saturday morning from approximately 9 o'clock to 12 noon. We would get on a bus and we would drive around Evanston. The public would be invited. The press would be invited. We'll all get on a bus and we would go around and look at the major capital projects that we're proposing for 2014. Then again on Monday, November the 4th, asking that you consider another goal-setting session with Mrs. Bonander. Do that in the Aldermatic Library. November 4th would normally be a meeting of the Human Services and Rules Committee, and would ask that the council either have that meeting on Tuesday or have the meeting with Mrs. Bonander on Tuesday. So if you would devote both a Monday evening and a Tuesday evening, November 4th and 5th, the city calendar is clear on those dates of other conflicts. We would ask that you do that. Then on Monday, November the 11th, would be the formal public hearing for the budget, and additional discussion. Additional discussion would then continue on to November the 18th, then with adoption on Monday, November 25th, and then the adoption of the tax levy and the tax levy abatement on Monday, December the 9th. So it's a full calendar. I think it allows you to talk about your goals, it allows you to talk about the budget, it allows you to get out and see firsthand some of our capital needs citywide. It is an investment of time, and I think it is more or less comparable to the time you have invested in previous years, but it is swished around a little bit. So, Madam Mayor, would ask this evening for agreement from the council that this schedule will work, and we'll go ahead and make the necessary arrangements to make all these things happen.
Does anyone have any problem with this schedule?
The only question then is the November 4th and 5th. Do you have a preference if we were to leave Human Services and Rules on the Monday and then have the goal setting on Tuesday, or do you care? I'm seeing no one care. Okay, well, we'll get back to you, but if you could keep those 2 dates free on your calendar.
You can always cancel Rules. That's always popular.
And if we can, we will. But I think Human Services clearly will have issues before it throughout the fall. Madam Mayor, thank you for your time. I think there is no action other than to adopt the budget calendar. So I think if you're all in consent to that, we can do that without formal action, we'll just move ahead and schedule that. Thank you. That concludes the special order of business.
Thank you. Alderman Rainey, could we have the consent agenda, please?
Nobody's told me about removing anything, so let's turn that on. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Was the budget calendar approved? Should I
Yes.
move that? It was, okay.
Well, it was sort of
Did we vote on
approved.
that?
You can put it on.
Just add it to the consent agenda. The second quarter financial report for fiscal year 2013 and the proposed calendar for approval tonight. Under the consent agenda, approval of the minutes of the special council meeting, July 29. Administration and Public Works Committee met this evening and recommend your approval of the payroll through July 14, $2,983,335.61. The payroll through July 28, $2,967,828.82. City of Evanston bills through July 13, $3,239,371.41. Credit card activity through June 30th, $142,179.70. We ask your approval for an agreement with Greeley and Hansen for Evanston Water Utility Electrical Study in the not-to-exceed amount of $73,220. We ask you approve a final vehicle and equipment purchase for 2013, 9 replacement vehicle units in the total amount of $434,165.28, combined to Curry Motors, Patton Caterpillar, H. Barber and Sons Incorporated. We ask your approval also for an amendment with Schaefer Consulting for project management support services for the New World Financial System implementation. This has to do with additional technical support services from the consulting company because of the loss of several employees in that department. Next, we ask your approval for an amendment to the City Council Chambers and Room 2404 Camera and Technology Project for the contract with AVI Systems for a not-to-exceed amount of $97,000. Your approval is also requested to allow the city manager to execute change order number 1 to the contract for the 2013 CIP street servicing project, Phase 3 with A-LAMP in an amount of $12,847.20, expanding the scope to include the construction of streetlights on McDaniel. A similar request is to approve the manager's execution of change order number 2 to the contract of the 2013 CIP street servicing project Phase 3 with A-LAMP in the amount of $79,802.40. This will expand the scope of the contract to include the construction of streetlights on Church Street. The committee requests action on Resolution 43R13, granting a utility easement to Gendel WNB LLC for Trader Joe's development for a 70-year period. No money's involved in this from the city. Staff recommends City Council approval of Resolution 47R13, which authorizes the city manager to sign the certification statement for boat access area development. It's a BAD grant application through the Illinois Department of Natural Resources for Church Street Boat Ramp Renovation Project. We ask your approval also of Resolution 48R13, authorizing the manager to certify and submit an Illinois Transportation Enhancement Program application for the Sheridan Road bike path from Ridge Avenue to Chicago Avenue. the Chicago Avenue bike path from Sheridan Road to Church Street. The total cost of funding is estimated to be $1,865,503, of which $1,492,403 would be funded by ITEP grant funds, and the remaining $373,100 be funded by the City of Evanston CIP. We ask your approval also for Resolution 50R13, authorizing manager to submit an application for grant funds for the Transportation Alternative Program to extend the regional bike share system to Evanston. I want to take this off the consent agenda because there's an amendment to this. A9. This is an ordinance for introduction which decreases the number of Class O liquor licenses from 3 to 2 for Whole Foods at 1640 Chicago Avenue. Accompanying that is another ordinance for introduction, 94013, increasing the number of Class N liquor licenses from 7 to 8 to permit issuance to Whole Foods Market, 1640 Chicago Avenue. A11, I'm going to make a request to suspend the rules on this one, so I will move that at this time. Staff recommends adoption of Ordinance 96013, amending the redevelopment plan and redevelopment project area, confirming tax increment allocation financing, convening a joint review board, and calling a public hearing regarding the proposed First Amendment to the Howard Hartree redevelopment project area. I would like to move introduction and then suspension of the rules. And it should be noted, this is to just begin the process. This is not approving a TIF. Next, Ordinance 57013, amending Title 10 to regulate parking in electric vehicle charging stations. We request you approve this. Next for approval is passenger loading zone at 1702 Sherman Avenue and taxi cab stand on 1600 block of Oak Avenue. The council is asked to approve the replacement of the existing cab stand at 1702 Sherman with a 3-minute passenger loading zone. Next for action is Ordinance 82013, amending Title 10 to impose 2-hour parking on Hurd Avenue. Both sides of Hurd Avenue from the South Alley of Central to the North Alley of Central from 9 a.m. and 6 o'clock p.m. on any day except Sunday and national holidays. Next, Ordinance 83013 is also for action. This amends Section 3251 and 3256 regarding the real estate transfer tax, adding a definition for the terms mortgagee and second creditor. Is that right? Yeah. And secured creditor, I'm sorry. Under Planning and Development, the committee met this evening and asks your approval to introduce and suspend the rules for Ordinance 87013, granting a special use for a commercial indoor recreation facility at 2025 Dempster. Secondly, I would move to suspend the rules on that. Next is P2, Ordinance 93013, granting a special use for a Type 2 restaurant, the Protein Bar, at 1622 Sherman Avenue. For action tonight, we ask your approval of a 3-year extension of a planned development at 1603, 1629 Orrington Avenue. Next is P4. It has been requested that this be removed from the consent agenda and will be addressed by the committee chair. Next, under Human Services, the committee met and the township supervisor recommends council approve the township bills, payroll, medical expenses for July, in the amount of $155,878.49. H2 is for action, and the Human Services Committee recommends you approve 2 payments to be made from the lead paint hazard grant for lead rehabilitation at 806 808 Reba Place, $56,000, and 1621 Fowler Avenue, $9,100. Fundings provided by the Torrens Indemnity Fund. Human Services Committee recommends your approval of the agreement with the Youth Job Center of Evanston to provide 15 disconnected and unemployed young adults with assistance over 24 months in an amount not to exceed $80,000 for FY 2013. Next is resolution, this is off the consent agenda. It has been held and will be addressed by the committee chair if that's still necessary. Next is resolution 8R13, authorizing the city manager to enter into an amendment to a lease agreement with Piven Theater Workshop. This is for action. Madam Mayor has made no recommendations for appointments, and therefore I move the consent agenda.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. City Clerk, would you call the roll?
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Alderman Burris. Aye. Alderman Fisk. Aye. Alderman Braithwaite. Aye. Alderman Nguyen. Aye. Alderman Wilson.
Alderman Wilson had to leave.
He votes yes.
Alderman Holmes.
Aye.
Alderman Tindem.
Aye.
Alderman Grover.
Aye.
8-0.
8-0. The consent agenda passes. Alderman Rainey, Administration and Public Works.
Yes, ma'am. Correct me if I am wrong. The only item is A11, is that correct?
A8.
A8. Oh, A8, I beg your pardon. Right. A8. City Manager, Catherine, do you have information for us?
Yeah.
The point of holding this off was there was a map with all the locations for the bike stations for the Share a Ride program, and we asked that some of it be changed.
And Madam Chair, Madam Mayor, members of the council, what we've done since we saw you a few hours ago is come up with a different map, which is still, thank you, which we'd still like to make one change to. Earlier at committee, we had talked about this opportunity to apply for a grant with the City of Chicago for grant funding for the bike share program. The committee was concerned that the stations were not allocated in a way around the community that would allow them to be used by all. So we have made some changes by adding a location at the south end of town, and I think we would want to work with the appropriate folks as far as exactly where, if not at Howard in Chicago, perhaps near St. Francis Hospital, but something we could talk about moving forward. We also felt it was important to add an additional location near Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, Jewel's. So in consultation with Alderman Wilson, who many of you know is quite a biker, he suggested the Greenleaf and Chicago area. There is also a stand at the Dempster Beach. We would propose at this point to move that to the Fleetwood Jourdain Community Center. We think that if there's one location on the beach that makes sense for now, and that would be immediately to the north. Then you'd have a location at the Davis Transportation Center with the Metro L station. You'd have a location at Northwestern University. You'd have a location at the Central Street CTA station and the Central Street Metro station. So this spreads it out a little bit more. It increases the number to 8 from 7. Again, there was discussion at the committee that perhaps an additional one would help smooth this out. So we're proposing, with the council's concurrence, that that resolution 50R13 be amended to reflect 8 locations versus 7 locations. Alderman Wilson needed to leave for a family issue that arose. He, I think it's fair to say, has been very skeptical about this. There was some discussion in the committee about the costs associated with that. Ms. Hurley and Alderman Wilson had a discussion between meetings. I don't think we convinced him that this was still a good thing, but so in his absence, I want to share his concern, not so much about the idea of having a shared bike program, not so much about the idea of using Divvy as the partner, but just the costs associated, what ultimately becomes a per bike cost. So Those were his concerns, and if he were still here, I think he would make comments along those lines. But with that and with the amendment, we would ask for concurrence.
Thank you. Thank you for considering the relocation of that spot. So that would be item A8, which is Resolution 50R13, authorizing the city manager to submit an application for grant funds for the Transportation Alternatives Program to extend the regional bike share system to Evanston.
As amended, Madam?
As amended. As amended. As the map is amended.
Been moved and seconded to approve Resolution 50R13 to submit an application for grant funds from the Transportation Alternatives Program to extend the regional bike share system to Evanston. City Clerk, would you call the roll?
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Alderman Burris.
Aye.
Alderman Fisk.
Aye.
Alderman Braithwaite. Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Holmes.
Aye.
Alderman Tindem.
Aye.
Alderman Grover.
Aye.
8-0.
8-0, the motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Next is A11. The ordinance has been introduced and the rules suspended, and therefore I move adoption of Ordinance 96-013, which amends the Howard Hartree Tax Increment Financing District.
Is there a second? All right, it's been moved and seconded to pass Ordinance 96-013, amendment to the Howard Hartree Tax Increment Financing District. City Clerk, would you call the roll?
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Alderman Burris.
Aye.
Alderman Fisk.
Aye.
Alderman Braithwaite. Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Holmes.
Aye.
Alderman Tindem. Alderman Grover. 8-0.
8-0, the motion passes. Alderman Rainey, that concludes your report. Thank you. Planning and Development, Alderman Nguyen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I believe we have one item that was
P1
and P4.
P1. Thank you. Yes, Ordinance 87-013, granting a special use for a commercial indoor recreation facility at 2025 Dempster Street. This matter has been introduced, and we move to suspend the rules. And so now I move for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Ordinance 87-013, granting a special use for a commercial indoor recreation facility at 2025 Dempster. City Clerk, would you call the roll?
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Alderman Burris.
Aye.
Alderman Fisk. Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye.
Alderman Nguyen.
Aye.
Alderman Tindem.
Aye.
Alderman Holmes. Sorry about
Aye.
that. Alderman Grover.
Aye. Thank you.
8-0.
The motion passes.
Yes, Madam Mayor, the next item is P4, Ordinance 86-013, granting a plan development and special use at 1611 through 1629 Chicago Avenue, the North Shore residence. I move approval.
It's been moved and seconded. Alderman Tindem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to. I think that I'd like to find out the answer to some of the to a couple of the questions that Ms. Carlson posed about the discrepancy between online rates for rental versus the ones being told to, I suppose, by print material to the current residents. I did not vote against this, or I did not vote to support this in introduction, but I have since changed my mind. I do believe there is reason to be concerned about the not subtle but quite steep rental increases that these folks are facing, and a very important thing is to keep, as so many speakers said tonight, the history of our community intact and help these people out in any way that we can. So I would like to ask my fellow colleagues to support the 10% inclusionary affordable housing part of this bill, but I also like to see if you have some answers to the questions about the discrepancy in rental, what's been,
Did you need a second?
Yes.
Sure.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of City Council. Jeff Michael with Horizon Realty Group. I think you guys know we are the owners and developers of the North Shore residence. I don't even know where to begin to address those. There wasn't a specific question on the floor, but the anecdotal stories that people have told to you earlier tonight, I just tell you they're just unequivocally not accurate. As far as you raised the issue with the website rates, those are rates that were on the website from the prior owners. As part of our acquisition, we took over ownership of the site. We haven't touched the site because we're in the process of developing a new site. It probably is prudent to take down that site altogether. We just didn't touch it because we didn't want to invest money in the site when we are building, as we speak, a brand new site. So I haven't even looked at that site other than taking over ownership of it. And I think we put our tag up there that it's now owned by Horizon Realty Group, but I haven't audited that site. And we could easily take that down to clear up any discrepancies or confusion as to what's going on as far as market rates. To address the increase, I'm not going to hide behind the fact that, yes, there are going to be increases at the North Shore residence. It's only, it comes with the territory. What we have to do there is a huge undertaking. We've talked about it before. The building is in dire need of renovations, and those rates are going to go up. But I think I looked at the write-up for today's agenda item. I'm looking at the comparable rates of what's going on in Evanston for seniors, and we fall right in the middle of the pack in terms of talking about affordable housing. In my mind, that is affordable housing, what our rates are going to be. If you compare us apples to apples with other life care facilities in Evanston, I believe there's 4 other life care facilities, of which we are. Those other life care facilities are all buy-in facilities where a resident has to fork up way in excess of $100,000 in equity to just live there and then pay $2,500 to $3,000, I saw from the chart, on monthly assessments. We're a rental option. Compared to that, we are way affordable. If you're going to compare us to the senior housing, the 4 senior housing locations that I also saw on that chart, those aren't apples-to-apples comparison. There's no dining services over there. There's no personal services, no medical services. We are a licensed life care facility. So you have to speak in comparison with other life care facilities because our rents, baked into those rents, are a whole host of services, which I've indicated in the letter that I hope you guys have a copy of the August 5th letter where we outlined exactly what goes into those rents in addition to the medical services, housekeeping and furnishings and, there's their TV, their internet, a lot of utilities. So you can't just look at the rents and say that these aren't affordable. From our standpoint, what we're projecting is that once we're stabilized, we think the average rent there is going to be about $2,075, excluding a meal plan. If you throw in what we're expecting is our residents to spend about $400 to $600 in meals, they should be all in for the month for about $2,500. I'll round that up. That's for an entire year. We're talking $25,000 to $36,000 for an entire year. That includes their roof over their head, their meals, their utilities, and some extra services, the nursing services I mentioned, and furnishings and housekeeping. Is there a specific question you'd like me to answer?
Well, I realize that there are other, if you call comparable situations here in Evanston, but I don't know that I would necessarily call them comparable. The Westminster Place and the Mather, those are pretty upscale, very expensive options for seniors who can afford it. And there are also provisions there that once someone does invest a certain amount of money up front, they will, after a certain point, be taken care of throughout their stay there. And I think that there's a lot of it's more of a progressive type of living. So I don't know that that's a good comp to what I.
The comp in the sense you have to compare a life care facility to a life care facility. We are regulated by the Department of Public Health. We have certain requirements that we need to abide by. We got to prove solvency to the state. If we're not solvent, we can't maintain our permit.
Right. I mean, I agree. This is a rental option. It's certainly to folks' advantage to have not to have the upfront money, as you said. I just feel that there are the need for affordable housing is great, as we know, and I think this would be a good move and would provide a good service for Evanston residents who are currently living there more or less, and to have to see them move out. I
would like to address the other comment. Someone said, and rightfully, that for many years this has been a great alternative for moderately priced housing. That is accurate. What they don't know is this project, this facility, was operating at a severe cash flow loss. I think, and these aren't my numbers, I'd be happy to share with you the marketing packet that was put together by third-party brokers when we purchased this. I believe we bought it in 2012, so it must have been fiscal year 2011. The prior owners had a $600,000 operating loss. That's why the facility was for sale. So if we didn't buy this, we wouldn't be talking about saving senior housing. We'd be talking about a wrecking ball. We'd be talking about a hotel there. We'd be talking about market rate apartment. We wouldn't be having this discussion about possibly saving senior housing. So this is a tight deal. It's a risky deal. If we're going to start imposing other restrictions and limitations on this thing, then we got to start all over. I got to be honest with you.
10%.
Thank you.
Alderman Grover.
I'll pass for now.
Alderman Braithwaite.
I think you may have addressed this, but our challenge is going to be, quite honest, finding affordable senior housing in the next couple of years. So one of the questions that I have is, and I've spoken to our senior ombudsman who've received many phone calls from our seniors, roughly 10 to 20 have mentioned that they will have to move just based on the increase that you just indicated. Just remind me, how many total residents are in that facility right now?
Before we starting the conversion, there was 185. We are converting down to 140, but adding 65 in this new PD, which is the subject of this PD. And let me remind you, this PD is for this separate addition building. We have already been approved through the building department to do the renovations that we are doing in the existing building. So these rent increases have nothing to do with the PD. If you guys deny the PD hypothetically, we are still doing the work in the existing building, and that's going to unfortunately drive the rents up because we have to pay for those renovations that are undergoing in the existing facility.
Alderman Rainey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I believe that this is an affordable opportunity. It is, and you made a reference to this, it is not the upscale Georgian, it's not the Westminster, it's not those places. It's not public housing. It's in the middle. A lot of us are in the middle, believe it or not. We're not no way could we afford going to the Georgian or to Westminster, some of those places where you put $100,000, $200,000 down and then, mucho thousands a month to live. And we're not eligible for public housing. This is the middle. This is the low middle. We have an opportunity here to increase the amount of housing. It would be a shame to lose it. And given what we've heard about the conditions, and if you've been in that place lately, and I'm sure Alderman Fisk has and others, I mean, it needs work. It needs work badly. I just don't know why we don't say to Trader Joe, there's a lot of people around who aren't quite eligible for food stamps. They don't have a link card. If you're going into Chicago Avenue, you need to reduce the cost of food 10% to anybody who is a senior or a poor person who doesn't qualify for other benefits. We don't do that with the other states. We don't say to Walgreens, hey, these people who live in this neighborhood, they need some help here. Before you build this fancy building at Chicago Avenue, you need to give people a break, 10%. I don't see, this is an assisted living facility. Let them do the job. God forbid, we need this service. We need this project. I think to hold them hostage for this 10% is really overstepping our bounds. If we said to this developer, look, we think it would be really, really nice if you're just loaded with dough and you're getting all sorts of grants to put this place together. If you could see your way to give 10% back, fine. But I don't think we should impose this on them. I just don't think so. And therefore, I know people need help. I know there are probably plenty of seniors who can't afford any of the three. And my heart breaks for them, and I pray to God every day that I don't become one of them, or that any of you. But I just don't think we have the right to impose this on this developer. And I think we need to assure that this project gets done.
Thank you. Alderman Fisk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm very protective of the North Shore. It's in my ward. I love everyone there. I do too. I've been over there many times. But I also need to tell my colleagues on the council that even before you came along, there had been various discussions about what was going to happen to the North Shore. It needs a lot of work. We've known that for a long time. And I was very concerned over the past few years to hear discussions about student housing or tearing it down or putting up something. There were people coming out of the woodwork with ideas that would have displaced everyone in that hotel, everyone. And I think that when you sort of understand what the North Shore has been going through, in order to attract any new interest and renovation of the building, even bringing the building up to a livable standard, it's going to take money. And taking money, which is what you've committed to doing, is going to require that rents can't remain the same. And that's hard for all of us because we would love them to remain the same. We would love to keep every single person that's in there. But your vision for the property is different than what the current vision is. And the current vision is basically to keep it the way it is. That's not going to work. It's not going to work over time. It's not going to work for our city. It's not going to work for our downtown. So I really, really wish that everyone could stay, but in reality, that probably can't happen. I've read your letter twice. In our earliest conversations, I was very relieved. Again, comparing to other conversations I've had with developers for the site, relieved to see that you are committed to the residents there. And I'm convinced that you are. And I'm also convinced that maybe there's been a little bit of confusion in the apples to oranges kind of comparisons, that maybe everyone isn't understanding that. I mean, you are offering some rebates, some opportunities here for folks to come in and get a little bit of a break here. The other thing that bothered me the most, though, and I think I mentioned this at a previous meeting, was that if we're going to have an affordable set-aside like this, we should tell you when you buy the property.
Sure.
And, I mean, we should just tell you that so that you can decide what you want to do, if you want to continue to, investigate purchase of the building, or if you want to change your plans for the building based on that. But to spring that on you fairly late in the day, I think is not fair. So I'm happy and satisfied that you've done what you can. I'm happy with the improvements. I think it's going to be an asset to both our residents and to our downtown. And I think that we all just need to understand that this is a building that's been ignored for many, many, many years, and something has to be done. Unfortunately, it is going to result in a raising of rents.
If I may make one more comment regarding the existing residents there and displacements. I know a gentleman spoke earlier, and I take that personally when I hear stories of people that have moved out because of raising rents, or we forced them out, because we are bending over backwards to make sure that we are not forcing anybody out. We're working around these people. If we have to do work in a certain tier, we're giving them time, we're relocating to other tiers and freezing the rents at the same rates. We haven't put, anybody in a corner and said by any stretch of the imagination that you have to move out. We are doing this project to save that place. This is the route you need to go in order to save and preserve the North Shore.
Well, since I'm the one that was accused of being unfair, I think I'd like to answer that. I had a discussion with the residents at the North Shore shortly after you'd bought the property, and they, of course, were very concerned and did not want to lose their homes and did not want to have to leave Evanston. And I promised them to do what I could, and then I talked with whoever was representing the owners and the management, who said, "Oh, no problem, don't worry. We're not going to move anybody out, and everybody who's here can stay, etc." And then I got calls from people who were having to move out. So it's not that I wasn't willing to say it earlier on, it's that I was told there wouldn't be a problem earlier on, and then I have been told that there is.
Not a single resident has been told to move out.
I didn't say you told them to move out, but they'd had to move out because they couldn't afford it.
We haven't raised any rents on existing residents there, so maybe they're making assumptions about what is going to be down the road because they obviously see that there's improvements coming on there, but there hasn't been increases in rents due to the fact that there are renovations there.
Okay, well, we have differing stories from you and from the residents, so I can't sort that out tonight. Alderman Holmes.
Well, I want to be as fair as possible, and I certainly, Alderman Fisk, would not be trying to tell them how to raise their rent. I'm just simply saying that they can set aside 10% to keep it affordable for some of the seniors that would like to stay in Evanston. I just think that's reasonable. I don't think that's unfair, and I don't understand how that 10% would stop the project. If so, then you're operating on a very low, tight margin.
You're right, we are.
Yeah. So, but that's where I stand. I think 10% set aside for affordable housing would be the right thing to do.
Alderman Grover.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mr.
Michael.
I've forgotten your name already. Thank you. Just, if I can get this right, you would be converting 185 units in the old building to 140 units in the old building, and then adding another 205 in the addition? Or
adding 65 in the addition.
adding 65 in the addition
Correct.
to 140, so you get up to a total of 205.
There's a net gain of 20 from what is there today.
Right.
Net gain of 20.
So it's a total of 205. 10% of that would be 20 units. And it's a 10% set aside that makes this business model unfeasible for you, you think?
The business model would be unfeasible and our financing would be unattainable.
Would 5% do the same?
Any requirements?
Change in the
yes.
Would
Our
make
bank
it
is already
entirely infeasible. I like the building. I like the project. I like mostly the design of it. I'm sorry about that big blank brick wall, but I understand how that's necessary too. I like the preserving of an Evanston institution. I just wish we could preserve more of its affordability, whether it's a perception of affordability or reality of affordability. It just seems like we're going from 185 perceived affordable units to 205 less affordable units, specifically for seniors. I wish we could grow more affordable housing units for our seniors. We will all be there soon. I think estimates are 25% of us in Evanston by the year 2025 will be over the age of 65. And I don't think we have capacity at the moment.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you, Mr. Michael.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Alderman Fisk, did you want to speak again?
Yeah, I just wanted to say a couple of things real quickly. When you purchased, it was during campaign. I was over at the North Shore Hotel many times. Actually had a mini ward meeting over there after you and your folks appeared at our regular ward meeting. Have talked through it. I think, obviously, the residents had lots of concerns, and I think we talked through that, and I was satisfied that you went back several times to speak with them, so thank you for doing that. I I'm going to hold you to everything that you're saying. I'm going to hold you to your commitment to the residents, to your doing a fine quality job and trying to keep rents as low as they are, and retaining the residents that are there and helping in whatever way you can to ensure that. I also, I suppose all of us on the council have had discussions with the city manager about our real long-term goals, and obviously long-term goal for the city of Evanston is to look at affordable senior housing. I mean, we've got to figure that out. This is not the place to do it. It's not fair to you to ask you to do that. I'm convinced that you're telling us the truth, that if you were asked to do this, or if this were imposed upon you, that your deal would fall apart, and then we'd be back to worse than square one. So I do want to move ahead with those discussions on council and with the manager and my colleagues. Maybe we'll all move in together into a affordable building. But thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you. Seeing no lights for further discussion, it's been moved and seconded to pass Ordinance 86013, granting a planned development and special use at 1611, 1629 Chicago Avenue, North Shore Residence. City Clerk, would you call the roll?
Alderman Rainey. Aye. Alderman Burris. Aye. Alderman Fisk. Aye. Alderman Braithwaite. Alderman Wilson. Alderman Wynn. Aye. Jeez. Alderman Holmes.
No.
Alderman Tindem.
No.
Alderman Grover. No. 5 to 3.
5 to 3, the motion passes. All right, Human Services we've taken care of. So I believe we are at call of the wards. Alderman Rainey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Let's see, I have a list here. First of all, the report tonight by Ms. Kelly about, since Alderman Wilson's not here, about the issues at Ridge and Davis. I would request that our city manager ask our traffic engineer to go out there and examine the site and see what we can do. I mean, it is an accident waiting to happen, if it hasn't already happened. 2, let's see, I would like to make a referral to the Plan Commission for a text amendment for B3 districts making parking lots a special use. Very exciting. I know you're waiting for something big, but that's what it is. Next, I would like to refer to the Rules Committee an analysis of the way we do business on the council. There is something very broken when an august body such as this begins its business at 10 o'clock at night. Not that we just all got off a plane and ran here and began our business, but that we started attempting our business at around 8 o'clock at night. I'm not saying that public comment isn't important public business, but other communities don't do it this way. At this time of night, none of us, everybody's been up since 5, 6, 7 o'clock. We've been here since 5:30. There's got to be a better way. We spend all sorts of time figuring out about all sorts of things, and our council meetings have to be looked at and figured out how we can do our business earlier. So that's, I dread recommending or referring it to us, because we're the ones that broke it, and now we're going to try and fix it. Next, there's going to be a neighborhood meeting, but everybody in town is invited on August 22nd. It's a Tuesday, next Tuesday night at 7 o'clock at the Levy Center in the Linden Room. having to do with people's concerns and a presentation by Autobarn regarding their proposal to utilize the 222 Hartree location. And the city's going to flyer the entire neighborhood, and so that's all of the people from Autobarn, the owner of Autobarn, and our staff will be present, and other matters will be discussed. But the Autobarn will be the primary issue that night.
Alderman Rainey, the date of that again?
August 27, Tuesday at 7 p.m.
Thank you.
Everybody's invited. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Burrs?
No report.
Thank you. Alderman Fisk?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Next First Ward meeting is Tuesday, September 3rd, 7 to 9 p.m. at the library, so I hope you will all turn out. And I wanted to say a thank you to Doug Gaynor and for his years of service to the city. I don't know whether all of you remember the condition of the parks before Doug arrived, but they were in terrible shape, and he went a long way to turning all of that around, and I appreciate his help and his years of service. So best wishes to him in his retirement.
Thank you. Alderman Braithwaite?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to, in fact, invite all the members of the council out to our next Second Ward meeting, Thursday, September 12th at the District 65 building on the first floor. At that meeting, we'll have an update from our city staff on library services. We'll also have an update on the Evanston Plaza. And in addition to that, I've invited our District 202 superintendent and staff to discuss the topic of the safe school zone. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Alderman Nguyen?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to thank Doug Gaynor for all of his service, all of his years of service and hard work for the city of Evanston. I had the same thought that Alderman Fisk had. Those of us who can look back and remember what our parks looked like before Doug took over, and they were in terrible shape. A lot of people didn't go to them. And I think now of James Park and our other major parks. I think of the parks in my community, in my ward, and as I look at them, as they're filled with children and people, I remember all the community meetings that took place, the discussions about what pieces of equipment would be there or how the parks would look, and how pleased people were to be able to be included in those discussions and really participate in shaping what their community was like. And then the benefit of all of this is parks just filled with people all the time. So that's Doug's legacy to this community, and I want to thank him again.
Thank you. Alderman Holmes?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I, too, would just like to say thank you to Mr. Gaynor for the things that he has provided in the Fifth Ward and all of the parks that we have there. So, I know the Fireman Park neighbors are real pleased because after 5 years, we're finally getting Fireman Park done. So I know that that's his last big park contribution to the Evanston community. Would like to say that this coming Thursday is the Fifth Ward meeting, and this is our normal ice cream social, which you're all invited to. And we don't normally have a program, but this time we have two presentations. The Rimland people will be there, and one other presentation. For September, I haven't invited them yet, but we will set aside time to ask the superintendent of 202 and representatives from District 65 and whoever else wants to come. We'll turn that meeting over as well to Safe School Zone. And I've already spoken to Alderman Grover and Alderman Tindem to ask them if they would poll the City Liaison Committee to have a special meeting as well so that we can get as much information out as we can to the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Tindem?
No report except to say that we will work with Alderman Holmes and the City School Liaisons Committee to get something on the calendar.
Please let me know when it is I would like to come. Alderman Grover?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think it would be specifically a request to the city staff person on that committee would be Mr. Bobkowitz, to see if he could gather his colleagues and our colleagues on the committee for a meeting sometime before our September 9th City Council meeting, perhaps to hold this community discussion of a safe school zone at Buku or even at the high school, see if the rest of the committee would be amenable to it. I think the City School Liaison Committee would be the proper hosting group for this meeting.
Alderman Grover, hosting a forum of some sort.
Hosting a discussion, just a
Community
discussion, informational discussion about schools, safe school zones, what it means, how to interpret the Illinois statute, what we might like to include, or how to amend the agreement that's already been proposed. Shop Evanston on Tuesdays. We have 3 more Tuesdays left. It benefits a lot of people. Schools open August 26th. That's 2 weeks from today. Home football season opens on Saturday. That is the Northwestern University home football season opens Saturday, September 7th, with the first of 3 in a row night games at 5 o'clock, kickoff against Syracuse.
Who are they playing?
Who?
Who was that?
Do you need tickets? Yeah. It's a home opener. It's against Syracuse at 5 o'clock. The next weekend, next Saturday, it's against Western Michigan at 8. And the following Saturday, I think on the 21st, is against Maine at 5 o'clock again. So 3 night games in a row. And Saturday, September 1st, will be our Evanston Day, and you'll hear more about the planning for that later. Some good news. Evanston led the way again in another direction, which was this Illinois legislature passed House Bill 1247, which bans handheld cell phone use while driving. And I understand that Governor Quinn is expected to sign this legislation on Thursday. So we will have a statewide ban. And our Evanston data, 3 years of implementation of our ban here, was very helpful, I think, to our legislators in making this happen. So thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, that concludes citizen comment. Is there a motion to adjourn? Is there a second? I'm sure there is. All in favor, say aye.
Oh, I'm sorry, Brad. I'll think about that. I find myself
So do I.
It's a strange woman.
Are you okay? Oh, yeah, no, I just can't.